Chapter 28-21. Impersonating how Tianny was beaten into a daze. He wanted to stand up in a sorry state, but Zhuo had already landed beside Hao Tianny and stomped down. Plop! Hao Tianny groaned and fell face first into the ground. He felt like his whole body was falling apart. With Zhuo on his back, he couldn't get up at all. How dare you? I'm a disciple of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect. How dare you hit me? Hao Tianny roared angrily. Not only do I dare to hit you, but I also dare to kill you. Zhuowen's lips curled into a cold smile. He lifted Hao Tianny by the neck and poured all his terrifying power into Hao Tianny's body. Boom! Hao Tianny stared at Zhuowen in disbelief. He died just like that. His divine soul had been obliterated by Zhuowen. After killing Hao Tianny, Zhuowen noticed that the communication jade pendant on Hao Tianny's waist lit up. Zhuowen took Hao Tianny's communication jade pendant and found that it was a message from the leader of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect, In Wuxia. The main content of the message was that In Wuxia had found a hidden valley. There were many eternal-grade divine herbs in the valley. There were even some Genesis-grade divine herbs. It was a real treasure valley. However, he wasn't the only one who found this treasure valley. Yu Junqi, the leader of the sun-chasing temple, also found it. As a result, In Wuxia and Yu Junqi engaged in a fierce battle, while the disciples of the Zhui Ri Temple and the In Corpse sect also engaged in a fierce battle. Fairy In Wuxia sent a message to Hao Tianny asking him to hurry to the valley and help. Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and a smile appeared on his face. It seemed that he was lucky to encounter such a good thing as soon as he came out. He could pretend to be Hao Tianny and enter the valley first, then wait for an opportunity to act. If there was a chance, he wouldn't mind taking all the divine herbs in the valley. Putting away the communication jade pendant, Zhuowen disguised himself as Hao Tianny and left. After about 6 hours, Zhuowen arrived at the valley mentioned in the communication jade talisman. This valley was located at the bottom of the abyss and was extremely well hidden. If it weren't for a coincidence, it would be impossible for ordinary cultivators to discover this valley. The moment Zhuowen entered the valley, he could feel the fluctuations of a great battle. There were 2 groups of people fighting in the valley. Zhuowen knew that these 2 groups were from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect and the Sun-Chasing Temple. Judging from the current situation of the battle, the In Corpse sect of the 10 Extremes was at a disadvantage. The In Corpse sect's team only had 7 people, while the Chasing Sun Temple's team had 10 people. The 10 Absolutes In Corpse sect's team was completely suppressed by the Sun-Chasing Temple. However, Zhuowen did not see In Wuxia or Yu Junqi, the leader of the Sun-Chasing Temple. "Senior brother, how? You're finally here. Come and help us." Not far away, a delicate female disciple from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect's team noticed Zhuowen's arrival and was immediately overjoyed. She couldn't help but call out to him. Her voice naturally attracted the attention of others, especially the cultivators from the Sun-Chasing Temple. They all revealed gloomy expressions and murderous intent. A middle-aged man who seemed to be the leader of the Sun-Chasing Temple's team said to 2 cultivators beside him, "You 2 go and kill Hao Tianny, then come back and kill the others." The 2 cultivators cupped their hands at the middle-aged man and charged at Zhuowen with murderous intent. These 2 cultivators had decent cultivation bases and were eternal overlords. Unfortunately, in Zhuowen's eyes, they were no different from chickens and pottery dogs. Zhuowen only needed to throw 2 punches to severely injure the 2 cultivators. They collapsed to the side, unconscious. The 2 teams that had been engaged in a fierce battle were stunned when they saw Zhuowen take care of the 2 eternal overlords so easily. When they came to their senses, the cultivators from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect cheered. How Tianyi was a disciple of their sect. They were saved this time. How Tianyi, how can you be so strong? The middle-aged man from the sun-chasing temple looked at Zhuowen in shock, his eyes full of disbelief. Zhuowen didn't pay any attention to this middle-aged man, who was in a state of shock. He took a stride forward and flashed out like a bolt of lightning, and he quickly appeared before the middle-aged man. He still only struck out with a single punch, and this punch was extremely ordinary and didn't carry any charm. The middle-aged man's eyes flashed with anger when he saw Zhuowen only throw out a single punch. He felt that Hao Tianyi was looking down on him. "I'll make you regret this." The middle-aged man took out the large saber on his back and slashed down. The terrifying saber light was like a crescent moon hanging in the sky, rushing toward Zhuowen with terrifying power. To everyone's surprise, Zhuowen grabbed the blade of light with his bare hands. With a squeeze, the blade of light was shattered into pieces. Not only were the cultivators from the sun-chasing temple in disbelief, but the other cultivators from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect were also surprised. They didn't remember Hao Tianyi being so strong. Moreover, it was too abnormal for him to take the middle-aged man's saber light with his bare hand. One had to know that the middle-aged man had a high status in the sun-chasing temple, and his cultivation was a half-step Genesis overlord. He was considered the strongest existence in this group. Zhuowen took advantage of the moment when the middle-aged man was stunned and rushed forward. His right hand formed a claw and grabbed the middle-aged man's neck. In that instant, Zhuowen used the tyrannical Dao slaying technique. His right hand seemed to have turned into a beast's claw that could take a man's life. The middle-aged man screamed. His head was blasted into a bloody mist, and his divine soul dissipated. The moment the middle-aged man died, the surroundings fell silent. Senior brother, Hao helped us kill the sun-chasing temple's Lin Guanyu. Now it's time for us to fight back. The delicate female cultivator from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect was the first to recover from her shock. She led the cultivators from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect to fight back. The sun-chasing temple's morale was low due to the death of their strongest cultivator, Lin Guanyu. The cultivators from the 10 Extreme In Corpse sect seized the opportunity and scattered. In a short while, the cultivators from the sun-chasing temple were either dead or running away. The valley suddenly became quiet. "Thank you for your help, senior brother Hao. If you didn't come in time, we would have been in trouble." The delicate female cultivator hurried to Zhuowen and thanked Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes shone with a strange light. Zhuowen asked curiously, "Why isn't Elder Yin here?" "Also, didn't Elder Yin send me a message saying that a precious divine medicine was found here? Why didn't I see it?" The delicate female cultivator hurriedly explained. After listening to her explanation, Zhuowen realized that the divine medicine was not here, but deep in the valley. At this moment, Yin Wuxie and Yu Junqi were fighting in the depths of the valley. It would be difficult to determine the winner in a short time. "Senior brother Hao, Elder Yin said before that if we win, we will immediately rush to the depths of the valley to help him pick the divine medicine." After the delicate female cultivator finished explaining, she continued to speak to Zhuowen. "In that case, let's go quickly." Zhuowen's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly asked the delicate female cultivator to bring him there. Chapter 28-22. The Enraged Yin Wuxie. As they went deeper into the valley, Zhuowen could feel the terrifying shockwaves from the battle. He knew that it was probably the battle between Yin Wuxie and Yu Junqi. Soon, the group arrived at the depths of the valley. At this moment, Zhuowen saw an average-sized herb field in the deepest part of the valley. The herb field glowed with vibrant colors and emitted an astonishing medicinal fragrance. Far away from the herb field, Yin Wuxie and Yu Junqi were fighting in the air. The battle was extremely intense, as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. However, the two of them knew their limits. Although the shockwaves from their battle were terrifying, they didn't allow the shockwaves to affect the herb field. The herb field was a huge treasure. They didn't want it to be destroyed because of their battle. Otherwise, their battle would lose all meaning. Yin Wuxie was overjoyed when he saw Zhuowen and the others arrive. On the other hand, Yu Junqi's expression changed drastically, as if he had guessed something. Tianni, lead the others to the herb field to pick the divine herbs. Remember, pick the Genesis grade divine herbs first. You can't afford to lose them, Yin Wuxie shouted. Without needing Yin Wuxie's instructions, Zhuowen had already taken action the moment he saw the herb field in the depths of the valley. There was a limit of 5 divine herbs to be picked in the Divine Herb Valley this time. Once you picked 5 divine herbs, you would be teleported out immediately. Zhuowen's actions immediately caused Yin Wuxie to frown. After all, he hadn't even finished speaking, and Hao Qianni had already taken action. This was basically treating his words as nothing more than passing wind. However, Yin Wuxie quickly realized that something was wrong. Hao Qianni's aura was very weak. It didn't seem like the aura of an eternal overlord. Wait, you're not Hao Qianni. Yin Wuxie suddenly shouted. He reached out with his right hand and grabbed at Zhuowen, who was running toward the herb field. But just as Yin Wuxie attacked, she was immediately blocked by Yu Junqi. Yin Wuxie had no choice but to instruct the other cultivators of the Yin Corpse sect to stop Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen's speed was too fast, and he was the first to run out, so the others couldn't catch up with Zhuowen at all. When Zhuowen arrived at the herb field, he immediately discovered that there were 4 Genesis grade elixirs in the field. He didn't hesitate to put them into his bag. After he put away the 4 Genesis grade divine herbs, the 7 disciples of the 10 ultimate Yin Corpse sect, led by the delicate female cultivator, surrounded Zhuowen. What is the meaning of this? Zhuowen asked calmly. Senior brother, how? Hand over the 4 Genesis grade herbs. Those herbs should be given to Eldarine. The delicate female cultivator looked at Zhuowen warily. She finally noticed that Zhuowen's aura was indeed very weak. He didn't seem like an eternal overlord. She hadn't noticed before because she'd been fighting with the cultivators of the sun-chasing temple. It was only when Yin Wuxie suddenly brought it up that she noticed this suspicious point about Zhuowen. What if I don't hand it over? Zhuowen asked coolly. If you don't hand it over, then I'm sorry. The delicate female cultivator shot a look at the others, and they all attacked together, intending to surround and kill Zhuowen. Zhuowen sneered and used the tyrannical art of Dao slaying. His entire body was like a fighting machine, and every move he made had the power to annihilate the heavenly Dao. Next, Zhuowen punched each of the surrounding cultivators and blew them up. The pretty woman's face went grim as she exerted all her ability with the intention of blocking Zhuowen's punch, yet it was utterly useless. Her entire body was blasted flying, and her body was on the verge of collapse as she fell to the ground and was on the verge of death. Zhuowen showed no mercy. The members of the 10 Ultimates Yin Corpse sect were not kind people. One could see this sect style from Yin Wuxie and Hao Qianni. How dare you? Not far away, Yin Wuxie, who was still entangled with Yu Junqi, roared angrily and rushed toward Zhuowen. Yu Junqi didn't stop him. He'd already sensed that something was wrong. He knew that Hao Qianni was an imposter, and that this person was very likely someone from another faction. Now that all 4 Genesis stage herbs had been taken away by that cultivator, how could he be in the mood to continue fighting with Yin Wuxie? Zhuowen saw that Yin Wuxie was on the verge of losing his mind. He didn't choose to fight him head-on. Instead, he casually took a divine herb from the herb field and disappeared from the herb field. He was teleported out. In Wuxia landed on the surface of the herb field. He was so angry that he roared, but there was nothing he could do. After all, the 4 most precious Genesis-grade herbs in the herb field had already been taken by Zhuowen. Damn it, I'll definitely find you, then pull out your tendons and peel off your bones. I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death. In Wuxia was so angry that his chest tightened. He steeled his heart and casually plucked 5 divine herbs from the herb field. He also teleported out of the area. Yu Junqi hovered nearby. He couldn't help but shake his head when he saw In Wuxia's extreme actions. If he was In Wuxia, he definitely wouldn't leave the Divine Medicine Valley so hastily. Instead, he planned to stay in the Divine Medicine Valley for a while longer. Perhaps he could find even better divine herbs. After leaving the Divine Medicine Valley, Zhuowen landed on the plaza. At the same time, he returned to his original appearance. Zhuowen didn't think that In Wuxia would immediately chase after him. After all, the Divine Medicine Valley was so big. Moreover, the 4 most precious Genesis-grade herbs in the herb field had already been taken by him. As long as that In Wuxia was rational enough, he would definitely continue to stay in the Divine Medicine Valley and search for other precious divine herbs. It's actually you little bastard. How dare you pretend to be a disciple of the 10 Extremes In Corp sect to steal my divine herbs? You're practically asking for death. A fierce shout sounded from behind Zhuowen. Then an extremely terrifying aura locked onto Zhuowen. An unprecedentedly huge energy palm slammed down from above Zhuowen's head. It enveloped Zhuowen's entire body. This palm was really too terrifying. It was the full power attack of a late-stage Genesis tier mighty figure. At this moment, there were many cultivators gathered on the plaza. When Zhuowen teleported out, no one paid much attention to him. However, when In Wuxia teleported out and immediately attacked Zhuowen, everyone's attention was drawn to Zhuowen. At the same time, many cultivators were guessing what Zhuowen had done to infuriate In Wuxia to the point that she would attack him. Chapter 28-23. Entering the Pill Formation Pagoda. This Zhuowen is done for. He actually provoked In Wuxia to attack him so mercilessly. He's dead for sure. The difference is too big. This Zhuowen is only Lord Hunyuan. In Wuxia's attack is enough to make this Zhuowen die, without a burial ground. Everyone was discussing. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping, who was guarding nearby, suddenly stood up and shouted, In Wuxia, this is the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance. How dare you attack as you please? Are you looking down on the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance? However, In Wuxia acted as if he didn't hear him. His attack became even faster, and it instantly engulfed Zhuowen's figure. Boom! A huge pit appeared in the plaza. Smoke filled the air, and the plaza was completely silent. The instant In Wuxia attacked, he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized to Huan Taiping. Grandmaster Huan, this Zhuowen doesn't know what's good for him. He attacked and killed a disciple of the 10 Extreme In Corp sect in the Divine Medicine Valley. Furthermore, he used despicable methods to steal 4 Genesis-grade divine herbs from me. I suppressed him in a fit of anger. Now that something like this has happened, it's really unintentional. In Wuxia's words were sincere, and she even lowered her status. Huan Taiping landed not far in front of In Wuxia. Just as he was about to speak, a figure suddenly jumped out and slapped In Wuxia's face. In Wuxia's attention was focused on Huan Taiping, so he wasn't prepared. He was directly slapped to the ground, looking extremely pathetic. Who is it? In Wuxia immediately stood up and looked forward with bloodshot eyes. he was shocked to find that the person who had attacked him was actually Zhuowen. "You're not dead?" Yin Wuxia asked in disbelief. The surroundings were in an uproar. Clearly, no one had expected that Zhuowen would be safe and sound under the attack of a late-stage Genesis-grade cultivator. "Old dog Yin, the divine medicine in the Divine Medicine Valley isn't yours. What right do you have to say that it was snatched from your hands? You old dog, you are truly shameless," Zhuowen said coldly. Yin Wuxia was enraged. Just as he was about to make a move to teach Zhuowen a lesson, Huan Taiping stopped him. "Elder Yin, I won't say anything about you making a move in the square without permission. If you dare to act recklessly in front of me again, then don't blame me for being impolite." As Huan Taiping spoke, the restrictive array formation on the surface of the plaza suddenly became powerful and terrifying, firmly locking Yin Wuxia in place. Yin Wuxia had no doubt that as long as he dared to make a move, the restrictions around the square would immediately transform into a killing array. At that time, he would be in trouble. He had seen the might of the pill array, Immortal Alliance's restriction array. If it was fully activated, it could even kill a Genesis lord like him. "Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first." Yin Wuxia saw that he couldn't make a move and didn't want to stay here for long. He simply left the square. "Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan." After Yin Wuxia left, Zhuowen cupped his fists towards Huan Taiping to express his gratitude. Huan Taiping waved his hand and looked at Zhuowen. "Zhuowen, this Yin Wuxia probably won't let this go so easily. I see that your talent in alchemy is very strong. If you join my Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I guarantee that once you advance to the Eternal grade, I'll immediately confer you the position of an Elder of the Alliance." Zhuowen cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for Grandmaster Huan's kindness. It's my honor to be able to join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. However, I have a request. After I join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance can't restrict my freedom." Huan Taiping nodded and said, "As long as you become an Elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance naturally won't restrict your freedom. Moreover, you'll be able to enjoy the various benefits of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance." Zhuowen frowned. He knew that Huan Taiping was implying that only after he became an Eternal grade alchemist would he have the qualifications to enjoy the freedom of an elder. "Since that's the case, I'll think about it first. After I leave the Pill Array Pagoda, I'll give Grandmaster Huan an answer." "How about it?" Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Seeing Zhuowen decline, Huan Taiping frowned slightly. His eyes flashed, and he finally nodded. "All right, we'll discuss this after you leave the Pill Array Pagoda. Now, you're going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. Take this jade slip. This jade slip records the rules of the Pill Array Pagoda. Before you enter the Pill Array Pagoda, you'd better take a look." Zhuowen kept the jade slip. He was very grateful towards Huan Taiping in his heart. Shortly after, he cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan. Now, I'm going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I hope that Grandmaster Huan can open the door to the Pill Array Pagoda. Yes, this Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. If you want to go up, you'll have to comprehend the Pill Array Dao of the corresponding level. You're only an alchemist, so you only need to comprehend the Pill Dao. As for the Array Dao, you can ignore it." After Huan Taiping finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and opened the door to the bottom of the Pill Array Pagoda. Zhuowen's figure flashed and entered the pagoda. This Zhuowen is going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I wonder which level he'll be able to enter. The Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. I heard that the strongest Genesis grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance only reached the 10th level. Have you forgotten about the creation grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? I heard that he reached the 11th level. He's only one step away from entering the last level of the pill array pagoda. It's really shocking and heaven-defying. When the people in the plaza saw that Zhuowen had entered the pill array pagoda, their interest was piqued. They were all guessing which level Zhuowen would be able to enter. Huan Taiping stood at the bottom of the pill array pagoda. An old man with white hair and beard, who was also wearing a wide robe, came to Huan Taiping's side with a walking stick. He stroked his snow-white beard and said with a light smile, "This little guy is very spirited. I wonder which level he'll be able to enter." According to past experience, it's already very impressive for this little guy to be able to pass the 5th level. However, this is still not enough. If he wants to obtain the qualifications to enter the pill array Dao domain, he'll have to reach the 7th level at least, Huan Taiping muttered with a frown. The old man shook his head and said, "The number of talents in our local pill array Immortal Alliance branch has indeed withered in recent years. I'm afraid our local pill array Dao domain will be at a disadvantage this time. Taiping, I think you're placing too much hope on this little guy, and your expectations are too high." Huan Taiping said in a low voice, "Elder Fong, this time he's only a mystery-grade alchemist, yet he's able to refine the heavenly soul marrow cleansing divine pill. Moreover, his success rate is 100%, and the quality is even unique. Is this something an ordinary alchemist can do? However, this Zhuowen has done it. Therefore, I think he's very likely the hope of our local pill array Immortal Alliance's younger generation." Elder Fong nodded and said, "This little guy's performance in the Pill Grand Assembly was indeed extraordinary. However, his alchemy skills are too low. In this short period of time, he shouldn't be too far away from the qualifying round. It's impossible for this little guy to become an eternal grade alchemist in a short period of time." Huan Taiping sighed. This was also where his worries lay. Chapter 28-24. The mysterious pill, refining Book's abnormality after a moment of dizziness. Zhuowen opened his eyes. What he saw was a space that looked like a starry sky. His surroundings were cold and dark. In this strange space, there were flowing lights that looked like shooting stars. The tracks of the flowing lights were like strands of silk. They were intertwined and complicated. Zhuowen knew that the traces left behind by the flowing lights were the Dao rhythm of the pill array Grand Dao. As long as he entered the traces of flowing lights, he would be able to comprehend the 2 grand Daos of pill array Grand Dao. If he gained anything, his Dao array level would increase greatly. Zhuowen didn't recklessly enter the traces of flowing lights. Instead, he took out the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him and studied it carefully. His eyes flickered, and he fell into deep thought. He was currently on the 1st level of the Pill Array Pagoda, which was also the lowest level. According to the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him, the Pill Array Pagoda was, as its name suggested, split into 2 parts, Pill Dao and Array Dao. Zhuowen was currently outside of the traces of flowing lights. This meant that he hadn't truly entered the Pill Array Pagoda's trial. This was a buffer for the Pill Array masters who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. It gave them enough time to choose whether they wanted to comprehend Pill Dao or Array Dao. Zhuowen walked to the front of the traces of flowing lights. There was a jade platform that was half the height of a person. This jade platform was very ordinary. The jade on the surface had lost its luster. However, at the top of the jade platform, there was a circular pattern. This pattern was divided into 2 areas. From Zhuowen's understanding, it was easy to see that these 2 areas represented pills and arrays. These were the buttons for the cultivators who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. If one wanted to comprehend Pill Dao, they had to press the button for pills. Otherwise, they had to press the button for arrays. Zhuowen's eyes flickered. He extended his hand and pressed the buttons for the two diagrams together. He was both a pill master and an array master. This was an extremely rare opportunity to enter the pill array pagoda. Naturally, he couldn't just comprehend pill Tao. When he pressed the buttons for pills and arrays, the flowing lights in front of him suddenly surged. They formed a wave and swept Zhuowen in. At this moment, the people around the square discovered that the pill array pagoda, which had not changed before, was now emitting a dazzling light. Moreover, this light split into two regions on the surface of the pill array tower. One region revealed the illusory image of the pill, while the other region revealed the illusory image of the array. Of course, the two shadows only appeared on the first level of the pill array pagoda. This little fellow actually activated the buttons of the pill array's two great regions at the same time. Is he trying to comprehend the pill array's two great Tao runes at the same time? Huan Taiping's eyes were filled with shock, and he could not help but blurt out. The old man standing beside Huan Taiping, Feng Zisher's expression wasn't much better than Huan Taiping's. One had to know that there were many cultivators in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance who cultivated both Pill Tao and Array Tao at the same time. However, almost none of them dared to enter the Pill Array Pagoda and comprehend the Pill Array Tao at the same time. It wasn't that they couldn't comprehend it at the same time, but that they didn't dare to do so. A person's energy was limited. Even a cultivator would find it hard to do two things at the same time. Even if they could do it, the efficiency would be much lower than focusing on one thing. There were many greedy cultivators like Zhuowen in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. They didn't want to waste the opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda, so they chose to comprehend the Pill Array Tao at the same time. However, in the end, they couldn't even pass the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda. This was because comprehending both Pill Tao and Array Tao at the same time created a strong disturbance. If one wanted to comprehend both thoroughly, they would end up with nothing. Taiping, didn't you tell this little fella about this taboo? It seems like this little fella won't be able to pass the first level. This opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda has been wasted. Feng Zisher shook his head and sighed. Huan Taiping smiled bitterly. This was indeed his mistake. He always thought that Zhuowen was only a pill refiner and didn't know the Array Tao. Therefore, he didn't remind Zhuowen of this taboo. If he knew that Zhuowen also knew the Array Tao, he would have warned Zhuowen not to be too greedy. On the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda, countless streams of light surged, leaving behind dazzling scars in the air. If one looked carefully, these streams of light could be divided into two different colors. One was a fiery red, representing the Pill Tao. The other was a cold blue, representing the Array Tao. Zhuowen was in the middle of these two Tao. He was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean that could capsize at any time. At this moment, Zhuowen's heart was bitter. He didn't think that activating both the Pill Tao and Array Tao would cause such a rapid chain reaction. Due to the conflict between the two Tao, the Tao was in chaos. Zhuowen didn't even need to talk about comprehending them. It was already good enough that he could protect himself. I can't continue like this. Otherwise, I won't even be able to pass the first level and will be kicked out. Wouldn't that be a waste of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda? Zhuowen's eyes flashed, and he took out the mysterious pill book. This mysterious pill book had an extraordinary origin, and there were many things he didn't know about it. Now that he encountered an unexpected situation in the Pill Array Pagoda, he could only take out this mysterious pill book to test it out. What surprised Zhuowen was that after he took out the mysterious pill book, the violent Pill Tao around him calmed down. Then, Zhuowen shockingly discovered that the mysterious pill book was violently absorbing the surrounding Pill Tao. In less than an hour, the red streams of light that represented the Pill Tao were completely absorbed by the mysterious pill book. Then, Zhuowen discovered that the surface of the mysterious pill book had changed quite a bit. Originally, whether it was the cover or the pages inside the mysterious pill book, they were all blank. It was like a heavenly book without words. The only words were the last few pages of pill formulas and some records about the pill Tao. This was because Zhuowen's pill Tao had improved by a lot. The contents of the mysterious pill book had increased according to his pill Tao standards. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any words in the mysterious pill book. Now that the mysterious pill book had absorbed the pill array pagoda's pill Tao, many words appeared in the blank pages. Zhuowen came to a sudden realization. He knew that there were records in the mysterious pill book. In the past, the reason why he couldn't see the contents of the mysterious pill book was because his pill Tao standards were too low. He didn't have enough pill Tao, so he couldn't reveal the original contents of the mysterious pill book. Chapter 28-25. True Pill Array Record Originally. Zhuowen thought that this mysterious pill book would stop after absorbing all the pill Tao spirituality of the pill array pagoda's first level. However, he realized that he was wrong. This was because after this mysterious pill book finished absorbing the pill Tao's Tao, it actually started to absorb the array Tao's Tao. Streaks of blue light were absorbed by the mysterious pill book like a whale sucking in water. Zhuowen was dumbfounded when he saw this. Wasn't this a pill book? Why was it absorbing the array Tao's Tao? However, Zhuowen soon calmed down. He looked at the mysterious pill book and started to ponder seriously. It seemed like this mysterious pill book wasn't just a pill book. It was probably a godly pill book that combined the pill Tao and array Tao. After the array Tao's Tao was completely absorbed, Zhuowen discovered that 4 bold and powerful words appeared on the cover of this godly book. So this godly book's full name is True Pill Array Record. Zhuowen muttered to himself. He couldn't help but flip open the True Pill Array Record. He was immediately attracted by the contents of this book. The True Alchemy Array Record explained the principles and processes of alchemy Tao and array Tao in simple terms. While Zhuowen was reading the True Alchemy Array Record, he was also constantly verifying his own alchemy array Tao and discovering many flaws and inadequacies. Zhuowen was intoxicated. After flipping through about 1/12 of the True Pill Array Record, he realized that the rest of the pages were all blank. Zhuowen put down the True Pill Array Record. He knew that if he wanted to read the rest of the True Pill Array Record, he would need to enter the higher levels of the Pill Array Pagoda. He would need to let the True Pill Array Record completely absorb the Pill Array Tao's Tao. Zhuowen kept the True Pill Array Record and walked towards the second level of the Pill Array Pagoda. He knew that with this True Pill Array Record, the Pill Array Pagoda wouldn't be a problem for him. The Pill Array Pagoda's second level was much denser and more intense than the first level. If Zhuowen relied on himself, he wouldn't be able to last for long on the second level. However, these terrifying Pill Array Taoist rhymes were not a problem for the True Pill Array Record. He absorbed them all. After the True Pill Array Record absorbed all the Pill Array Tao runes of the second level, some mysterious content appeared in the 1/12 blank space at the back of the record. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was like a thirsty scholar as he tirelessly flipped through the contents of the True Record of Alchemy. His alchemy skills had also unknowingly improved as he flipped through the True Record of Alchemy. When Zhuowen reached the 4th level of the Pill Array Pagoda, his array Tao level seemed to have been enlightened. He directly broke through the primordial chaos realm and rushed into the heaven's fate realm. Above Zhuowen's Tianling meridian, an invisible array Tao ripple spread out. It actually resonated with the array Tao spirituality within the Pill Array Tower. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with excitement. He didn't expect his array Tao level to break through so quickly. He knew that all of this was due to the true pill array record. Moreover, he also discovered that his alchemy Dao level was faintly showing signs of breaking through. His alchemy Dao level had already reached the mysterious level. If he took another step forward, he would reach the eternal level. As long as his alchemy Dao level reached the eternal level, he would instantly become an elder the moment he entered the pill array immortal alliance. This was what Huan Taiping had promised him. As Zhuowen continued to explore, more and more blank spaces appeared in the true pill array record. Zhuowen's alchemy Dao level also continued to rise. When Zhuowen reached the 7th level, his array Dao level broke through again, reaching the mysterious level. His alchemy Dao level reached the peak of the mysterious level. He wasn't far from the eternal level. In fact, if Zhuowen wanted to break through to the eternal level, he could do it. However, he didn't do so. Instead, he planned to break through to the eternal level in both his alchemy Dao and array Dao. After studying the true pill array record, he knew that alchemy Dao and array Dao came from the same source. The two complemented each other. If the two were of the same level and advanced together, it would be of great help to his future alchemy Dao cultivation. But if the two weren't of the same level, not only would they fail to complement each other, the lower level might even drag down the higher level. This was also the reason why Zhuowen would encounter two types of Dao charm when he planned to enter the pill array pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm. In the end, it became an obstacle for him to comprehend either Dao charm. If his alchemy Dao and array Dao levels were of the same level, then the two would form a balance. Entering the pill array pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm would be beneficial. The efficiency would even be higher than comprehending a single Dao charm. Zhuowen continued to move upwards. When he entered the pill array pagoda's 10th level, 5/6 of the true pill array record's blank spaces had already been filled with dense words and content. The moment Zhuowen entered the 10th level, Zhuowen's alchemy Dao and array Dao broke through simultaneously, reaching the eternal grade. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a look of enlightenment. His hands kept forming seals in the void, and he took out array flags one after another. Unexpectedly, he set up an eternal level array formation in a short time. After setting up the formation, Zhuowen took out the Emperor Pill Cauldron and took out various herbs from the macro world. He planned to start alchemy directly on the 10th level of the pill array pagoda. Advancing in the alchemy Dao was much more troublesome than advancing in the array Dao. Only after successfully refining a spirit pill of the corresponding level could one truly consolidate their advancement. This time, Zhuowen was refining the most basic eternal level spirit pill, called the Eternal Pill. Opening the furnace and igniting the spirit flame, Zhuowen methodically refined the Eternal Pill. The alchemy process flowed smoothly without the slightest sloppiness. To Zhuowen's surprise, the process of refining the Eternal Pill went extremely smoothly. He succeeded on his first try. When he succeeded in refining the Eternal Pill, the look of enlightenment in his eyes deepened, and his understanding of the eternal level alchemy Dao deepened. He knew that from this moment on, he was an eternal level alchemy master. This pill array pagoda has a total of 12 levels. There are still 2 levels left. As long as I enter the last 2 levels, all the gaps in the true pill array record will be completed. Perhaps my alchemy skills will rise to another level. Zhuowen's eyes fell on the stairs leading to the 11th level at the end of the 10th level. His eyes shone with excitement. Without any hesitation, he stepped onto the stairs and walked towards the 11th level. What Zhuowen didn't know was that while he was breaking through the pill array pagoda, the square was as lively as a boiling pot. Even Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher, who were watching from the side, were dumbstruck. Their entire bodies froze on the spot. He actually broke through to the 10th level, and under the conditions of stimulating both the alchemy Dao and array Dao. The corners of Feng Zisher's mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. In his opinion, Zhuowen might not even be able to break through the first level. However, Zhuowen's performance was as if he had broken through all the obstacles and directly entered the Pill Array Pagoda's 10th level. Huan Taiping's shock wasn't any weaker than Feng Zisher's. At the same time, he was ecstatic. Chapter 28-26, Pill Array Immortal Alliance Leader. This time, after this kid comes out of the Pill Array Pagoda, even if his alchemy skills are still at the profound grade, I will still give him the position of an elder. Huan Taiping's eyes shone brightly as he smiled. Feng Zisher did not refute. He did not object to Zhuowen becoming an elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, anyone who could reach the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda would become a Genesis Pill Master. The few old farts of their generation had reached the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda when they were young. Now, they had become the pillars of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Look, the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is lit up. Is Zhuowen going to reach the 11th level? My God, I heard that there is only one person who can reach the 11th level in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, and that is the mysterious creation grade alchemist. He is also the number one person behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is really lit up. This Zhuowen is too ferocious. He actually reached this level. He is definitely abnormal. After discovering that the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was lit up, everyone in the plaza exclaimed. Discussions swept out like a tidal wave. Everyone was shocked. Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher were completely frozen. Their mouths were slightly open, and they could not say a single word. This Zhuowen must be roped into the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, no matter the cost. Feng Zisher was the first to regain his senses. He made up his mind. Zhuowen was really too heaven-defying. He was actually able to reach the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. One had to know that in the entire Pill Array Immortal Alliance, only the mysterious creation grade alchemist, who was also the ruler behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, had reached the 11th level. But now, there was one more person. If the Pill Array Immortal Alliance did not rope in such a genius, then their Pill Array Immortal Alliance would really have a screw loose. Huan Taiping was also pleasantly surprised. His heart was like a turbulent sea, and he could not calm down. Zhuowen closed the true Pill Array record again, and the light of understanding in his eyes became more and more obvious. He was currently at the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda, and after the Pill Array True record absorbed the Pill Array Dao aura of this level, the newest 1/12 of the content had appeared. Zhuowen had also finished reading it. At this moment, Zhuowen's alchemy Dao and array Dao had both reached the peak of the eternal level. The more he read the true alchemy array record, the more enlightened Zhuowen became. Naturally, his comprehension of the true alchemy array record also increased. Although Zhuowen's level of alchemy array had just advanced to the eternal grade, the true alchemy array record had inspired him greatly. It had allowed him to improve his alchemy array level to the peak of the eternal grade in a short period of time. Zhuowen had a premonition that if he could study the entire true pill formation record, perhaps he would be able to see through the third step of pill formations and directly advance to the God of Creation stage. This premonition became more and more intense in Zhuowen's mind, and Zhuowen's heart also became more and more passionate. If he could reach the God of Creation stage in all his alchemy array Dao, his status in the host region would be equal to those Dao Palace Masters of Creation stage almighties. If he joined the Pill Array Immortal Alliance as a God of Creation Stage Alchemy Master and Array Dao Master, his status would be no different from Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher, the older generation alchemy masters, and Array Dao Masters of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. As he thought of this, Zhuowen resolutely stepped onto the 12th level. His eyes were filled with determination, and the true alchemy array record in his hands also emitted a rich light. It seemed to be excited and anticipating the Pill Array Dao aura of the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. In the deepest part of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, there was an ordinary pavilion. The surface of this pavilion was filled with terrifying array restrictions. If a cultivator who understood Array Dao came near this pavilion, they would immediately be so shocked that they wouldn't dare to come close. This was because the array restrictions on the surface of this ordinary pavilion were even more terrifying than the ones around the Pill Array Pagoda. Once these restrictions were activated, they would form an extremely powerful death trap array that would exterminate all enemies who dared to invade this pavilion. At this moment, in a simple room inside the pavilion, a white-haired youth was sitting on a purple praying mat. The white-haired young man's body was surrounded by extremely abstruse restriction ripples, which were obscure and profound. Suddenly, the white-haired youth opened his eyes. Shock could be seen in the depths of his eyes. Someone actually made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Who exactly is it? The white-haired youth stood up abruptly. He didn't conceal the shock in his eyes. "I have to go take a look." After saying this, the white-haired youth disappeared from the pavilion. At this moment, the surroundings of the Pill Array Pagoda were completely silent. Everyone was staring at the light that was still shining on the top floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. There was no discussion or clamor. They were all shocked speechless by what had happened on the Pill Array Pagoda. Everyone knew that ever since the Pill Array Pagoda had been established, no one had ever made it to the 12th level. Even the mysterious Pill Array Immortal Alliance's creation grade alchemist hadn't done it. However, today, the unknown Zhuowen had done it. Moreover, he was only a mystery grade alchemist. This result made many people's jaws drop. They couldn't believe it. Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher were speechless. Their expressions were numb. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The white-haired youth appeared behind the two of them. Alliance Master. When Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher saw the white-haired youth, they hurriedly cupped their hands and bowed. However, they were extremely shocked. The white-haired youth was the true ruler of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He was also the only creation-grade alchemist in the Alliance. Normally, he wouldn't appear unless the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was in a life-and-death crisis. However, today, the white-haired youth had come out of seclusion for Zhuowen. Who's making it to the Pill Array Pagoda? The white-haired youth only nodded slightly at Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher. Then he looked at the Pill Array Pagoda and asked. Huan Taiping hurriedly clasped his hands and recounted everything related to Zhuo when in full detail. He's actually not a member of our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He's just a rogue cultivator. The white-haired youth revealed an astonished expression. He clearly didn't expect that the person who made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was actually a nameless rogue cultivator. Invite this child to join our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Let him become our 5th Immortal Master. His position will be the same as the two of you, the white-haired youth said calmly. Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher were shocked. They didn't expect the white-haired youth to value Zhuowen so much. He actually directly gave Zhuowen the position of Immortal Master. In the huge Pill Array Immortal Alliance, there were only 4 Immortal Masters. Huan Taiping and Feng Zisher were 2 of them. Regardless of whether it was Huan Taiping or Fang Zisher, it took them countless years of hard work and contributions to finally become an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, it was impossible to become an immortal master just by relying on talent and potential. One also needed sufficient experience and prestige. However, the white-haired youth directly made Zhuowen an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This showed that he valued Zhuowen greatly. Chapter 28-27 bestowed to an immortal master on the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. Zhuowen's eyes shone as he looked at the true Pill Array record in front of him. He absorbed all of the Pill Array Dao aura around him, and the last 1/12th blank space of the true Pill Array record was filled with words. Zhuowen couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed the true Pill Array record and started to study it as if he was drunk. The look of enlightenment in his eyes became more and more intense. When Zhuowen put down the true Pill Array record, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration at the profound knowledge of the cultivator who created this record. The true Pill Array record was extremely profound. Zhuowen knew that studying it once wasn't enough. He had to study it repeatedly in order to gain more and more. However, even though he had only roughly studied it once, his gains were unimaginable. What made Zhuowen regretful was that his alchemy Dao and Array Dao had both reached the pinnacle of the eternal grade. He originally thought that he could break through to the Genesis grade after entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. However, now it seemed that he had overestimated himself. However, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. At least, he had seen the trajectory of the Pill Array Dao and gained a lot of insights. Breaking through to the Genesis grade was only a matter of time for him. It's time to go down. Zhuowen put away the true Pill Array record. This was a very important thing, and he had to protect it well. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of others. When Zhuowen walked down the Pill Array Pagoda, he found that the atmosphere around the plaza was unusually quiet. Many pairs of eyes were focused on him, making him feel slightly uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher hurried forward. Huan Taiping had a warm smile on his face as he said, "Congratulations, Zhuo Xiaoyu. You actually shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda." Fang Zisher also clasped his hands in greeting and said some words of praise. Zhuowen was a little surprised. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were both Genesis grade alchemists of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. They had high positions and authority. Although he had shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda, it wasn't enough for two Genesis grade alchemists to treat him so warmly and politely. His gaze quickly noticed the white-haired youth behind Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher. The white-haired youth looked ordinary, but Zhuowen felt an indescribable sense of oppression from the white-haired youth. Zhuowen knew that this youth was definitely not simple. Moreover, from the positions Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were standing in, it could be seen that these two were faintly following the white-haired youth's lead of him. "Zhuowen, you. Zhuowen, you. Of you. You. Zhuowen. Zhuowen. Of you. Of. Little friend Zhuo, this is the alliance leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Ji Wuming. He's also the only creation grade pill master in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance." Huan Taiping hurriedly introduced, his eyes filled with reverence. Zhuowen. He didn't expect this white-haired youth to be the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's alliance head. No wonder Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were so respectful. "Greetings." Zhuowen cupped his fists. The white-haired youth was satisfied with Zhuowen's performance. He nodded. He stared at Zhuowen and said, "Zhuowen, you passed the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. This shows that you have unlimited potential. In the future, you will be able to break through to the 3rd step of the Pill Array Grand Tao. You are the first cultivator in the history of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to pass the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. Now, I, Ji Wuming, invite you to be the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Do you agree?" Zhuowen was stunned. He didn't know what an Immortal Master was. Huan Taiping quickly explained to Zhuowen what an Immortal Master was. At the same time, he mentioned that once Zhuowen became an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, he would be on the same level as Fang Zisher and him. Zhuowen was shocked. He looked at Ji Wuming. He didn't expect Ji Wuming to give him such a high position. It seemed like Ji Wuming valued him a lot. Zhuowen only wanted to become an elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He wanted to use the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to restrain that old geezer Yin Wuxia. Now that he was an Immortal Master, he had a much higher status than an elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Yin Wuxia would have to hold back before he could deal with him. "Many thanks for Alliance Head Ji's kindness. But after I become an Immortal Master, will there be restrictions on my freedom?" Zhuowen asked hesitantly. "Shuo, don't worry. An Immortal Master is the most respected Pill Array Grandmaster of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. There won't be any restrictions in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. However, when the Pill Array Immortal Alliance is in danger, as an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, you must protect the Pill Array Immortal Alliance with your life," Huan Taiping said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhuowen agreed without hesitation. The white-haired young man, Ji Wuming, smiled when he saw that Zhuowen had agreed. "Immortal Master Zhuo, I see that your Pill Dao and Array Dao have just broken through to the peak of the eternal grade. You shouldn't have stabilized your realm yet. Go and stabilize it now. 3 days later, I will personally confer you the position of Immortal Master and announce it to the world." Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen meaningfully and smiled. Zhuowen's heart trembled. Ji Wuming really had good eyesight. He cupped his hands and left. "This kid's Pill Dao has already broken through to the eternal grade. It seems that our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a great chance of entering the Pill Array Dao Domains qualifiers." Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher didn't see that Zhuowen's Pill Array Dao had reached the eternal grade. Now that Ji Wuming mentioned it, their eyes lit up with excitement. In the following period of time, the rumor that Zhuowen had passed the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda spread throughout the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Everyone knew that the profound Grade Pill Master Zhuowen, who had won first place in the Pill Array Grand Assembly, had actually accomplished such a feat after entering the Pill Array Pagoda. Even the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Ji Wuming, hadn't been able to pass the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. However, Zhuowen had passed it. Didn't this mean that Zhuowen's talent was even more terrifying than Ji Wuming's? At the same time, many cultivators realized that this Pill Master called Zhuowen was really going to soar. The Pill Array Immortal Alliance definitely wouldn't let go of such a powerful genius. They would definitely invite him to join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and give him an extremely high status. Many people guessed that if Zhuowen were to join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, he would immediately become an elder-level figure in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. However, the next explosive news shocked everyone. Zhuowen had indeed joined the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Moreover, the person who had invited him was the Alliance Master, Ji Wuming. Moreover, he had directly made Zhuowen the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This news not only shocked the entire Pil Array Immortal Alliance, but when it spread to the other regions of the host region, most of the forces in the host region were shocked. They didn't know who this Zhuowen was. However, when they heard that this kid had only been a rogue cultivator before joining the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, they were all shocked and began to inquire about this Zhuowen. Chapter 28:28. 6 Desires Spirit Condensing St. Pil. Within the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, there was a deep cave filled with Yin Qi. Numerous ghastly coffins stood in a forest. Dense Yin Qi surged up as if it was material. Even a cultivator at the second step of the Tao validation realm would probably have to retreat in such a terrifying environment filled with Yin Qi. In the depths of the cave, filled with Yin Qi, a figure was faintly discernible like a ghost. It was a man. The strange thing was that there was a golden vertical mark between the man's brows. It emitted a blazing golden light and seemed out of place in the gloomy surroundings. What? It's that Zhuowen again. That bastard actually became the 5th immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Damn it! The man with the golden vertical mark between his brows threw the communication jade talisman in his hand to the ground. His eyes were ferocious as he revealed his handsome face. If Zhuowen was here, he would definitely recognize that this person was Sakyamuni, who had a deep enmity with him in the past. Ever since Zhuowen became an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, his name had spread throughout the entire host region. Although many forces didn't know what Zhuowen looked like, Zhuowen's name was already well known. Sakyamuni's status in the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect wasn't low, so he naturally had heard of Zhuowen's deeds. I should have completely annihilated this kid when we were on Heavenly Armor Planet. Now, he has become so powerful. Sakyamuni's eyes flickered. He felt that this matter was a little difficult to deal with. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds during these years in the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, and he had already broken through to the second step of the Tao validation realm. He was now an expert under the Lord of Profundity. Moreover, Sakyamuni had a heaven-grade Tao root, so his status in the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect was extremely high. Even the leader of the group, Yin Wuxia, who was heading to the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, had a lower status in the sect than Sakyamuni. Sakyamuni was very young, and his talent was extremely high. His future was limitless, and he was loved and valued by the sect leader of the 10 Extreme Yin Corpse sect. There were many elders in the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect who wanted to befriend Sakyamuni, and Yin Wuxia was one of them. I have to get rid of this Zhuowen. I have to send a message to Elder Yin Wuxia. The killing intent in Sakyamuni's eyes was boiling. He couldn't leave now and was in a state of continuous breakthrough. Moreover, he could feel that his Tao root was about to evolve again. This period of time was the most crucial moment for him, and he absolutely could not leave. Although Sakyamuni wanted to kill Zhuowen with his own hands, he knew that he did not have the opportunity to do so. Within the Pil Array Immortal Alliance's Pil Array Immortal City, Yin Wuxia sat in his room with an ugly expression. After hearing that Zhuowen had been promoted to an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, he knew that he no longer had the qualifications to act against Zhuowen. If he acted, he would completely anger the people of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. An immortal master's position in the Pil Array Immortal Alliance was too important. Their position was not inferior to the vice sect leader of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect. If he acted, his fate would be very miserable. Yin Wuxia quickly realized that the communication jade at his waist had lit up. He frowned, but still took it out. After a while, he muttered to himself, Sakyamuni also has a grudge against Zhuowen? He actually asked me to kill Zhuowen. However, Yin Wuxia quickly shook his head. Zhuowen's current status was different from before, and he did not have the qualifications to act. If he acted, he would bring disaster to himself. He could not help Sakyamuni with this request. Just as Yin Wuxia was about to reject, someone knocked on his door. He opened the door and saw a man and a woman standing outside. Thunder God Park's Lei Zixuan and Huangji family's senior Huang Wu are here to greet Senior Yin. Lei Zixuan was wearing a red dress. She had a sweet smile on her face as she bowed to Yin Wuxia. Yin Wuxia looked at Lei Zixuan indifferently and nodded to Huang Wu, who was beside her. Lei Zixuan was just a junior of the Master of Destiny, so he did not care about her. However, Huang Wu was the leader of the Huangji family and was also a creator. Yin Wuxia paid more attention to him. "Why are the two of you looking for me?" Yin Wuxia stood at the door, not intending to let the two of them in, as she asked in a neutral tone. Lei Zixuan did not mind Yin Wuxia's disregard. After all, the latter came from a Tao palace and was also a creator. It was normal for him to ignore her. "Actually, it's like this. We want to discuss the matter of Zhuowen with Elder Yin. If I remember correctly, there should be quite a bit of conflict between Elder Yin and Zhuowen, right?" Lei Zixuan said with a sweet smile, "I'm afraid you found the wrong person. That Zhuowen is now an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He's not someone I, Yin Wuxia, can afford to offend. If you're here for this matter, you can go back now," Yin Wuxia said coldly. Huang Wu suddenly cupped his fists and said, "Elder Yin, we have a way to force that Zhuowen out and kill him without anyone knowing. As long as Elder Yin cooperates with us, we have an 80% chance of success." Yin Wuxia was taken aback, but her interest was piqued. She nodded and gestured for the two of them to enter, saying, "Please come in. If your method is reliable, it's not like I can't cooperate with you." While Yin Wuxia and the others were plotting, Zhuowen was in the room, refining pills. Waves of medicinal fragrance filled the room, making it look like a paradise. Bang! Suddenly, there was a soft sound, and a cloud of black smoke rushed out of the pill furnace. The black smoke turned into a fierce tiger and charged toward Zhuowen. Its roar shook the sky. Zhuowen retreated abruptly. He clenched his right fist and punched at the tiger. The power of the Pangu's sacred body burst out and directly dispersed the tiger formed by the black smoke. Zhuowen sighed lightly. He knew that he had failed to refine this cauldron of pills. This was the third time he had refined a batch of Genesis-level divine pills, but he still failed in the end. One had to realize that the ingredients for each Genesis divine pill were extremely precious. Zhuowen only had 5 Genesis divine pills on him. Now that he had used up 3 of them, as well as the other supplementary ingredients, this was a huge loss. Zhuowen poured out the medicinal dregs from the cauldron. He didn't plan to continue refining divine pills. He knew that he was already very close to reaching the God of Creation stage. All he needed was a final opportunity. If he continued to refine divine pills now, he would only end up wasting the 2 remaining God of Creation stage divine pills that he had. Zhuowen flipped open the True Alchemy Array record, and his eyes fell on the last page of the record. His expression was extremely serious. After the True Alchemy Array record was completed, the last page of the record was about recovering the 6 soul desires. It was said that in order to recover the 6 soul desires of a cultivator, one needed a divine pill called the 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Saint Pill. Chapter 28-29, Qualification Round the Heaven-Piercing Grade Elixir, was above the Creation Grade Elixir. To refine a heaven-piercing grade elixir, one had to be a heaven-piercing grade elixir master. However, in the entire host region, Ji Wuming was the only creation-grade elixir master, let alone a heaven-piercing grade elixir master. Even Ji Wuming was not qualified to refine the 6 Desires spirit-congealing elixir. What made him even more helpless was that the 6 Desires spirit-congealing elixir's main ingredients were 6 different heaven-piercing grade elixirs. These 6 heaven-piercing grade elixirs were the 1,000-year flowerless eyes, red pill, exquisite phoenix leaf, Buddha yellow water bamboo, 3 realms flower chinyu, and scarlet moon star ripple milk. Zhuowen had never heard of any of these 6 heaven-piercing grade elixirs before. Zhuowen knew that it was impossible for him to refine the 6 Desires spirit-congealing elixir. Even Ji Wuming couldn't do it. The only thing he could do now was to give the Moyen of Wushang to Ji Wuming and see if he had any other methods to restore the 6 desires in a cultivator's soul. After leaving the room, Zhuowen walked straight to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's main building. Immortal Master Zhuo. When Zhuowen entered the main building, the guards at the entrance lowered their heads in respect. They were extremely respectful to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was now the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. His status was equal to Huan Taiping and the others. All the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Pill Array Immortal Alliance respected him like a god. Brother Zhuo, what a rare guest. You've been an immortal master for so many days. This is your first time here, right? An old man with white hair and a beard walked over. When he saw Zhuowen, he immediately greeted him warmly. Elder Fong, I'm here to look for Alliance Master Ji. I wonder if he's in the main building. Zhuowen cupped his hands. This old man was Fong Zisher, who had appeared outside the Pill Array Pagoda with Huan Taiping. Haha, that's great. I'm also looking for the Alliance leader. Come with me. Today, even if you didn't come, I'm afraid that old fellow Huan Taiping would have gone to call you. Now that you've come, that's just right. It saves that old fellow Huan Taiping from running errands. Fong Zisher laughed. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was flabbergasted. He revealed a puzzled expression and asked, "Why did the Alliance leader summon us?" "This matter has something to do with you. It's about participating in the Alchemy Array Dao Domain Qualification Competition. You'll know when you get there." Fong Zisher blinked his eyes and spoke in a somewhat disrespectful manner. "Zhuowen, you're already here. That's great. I don't have to go and call you." A voice filled with vicissitudes of life came from behind. Zhuowen and Fong Zisher saw Huan Taiping jogging over and catching up to the two of them. "Grandmaster Huan." Zhuowen smiled and cupped his hands. "No need to be so courteous. You are also an immortal master. Our statuses are equal. You can just call me Brother Huan." Huan Taiping waved his hand. Zhuowen smiled faintly and didn't fuss over the way he addressed Huan Taiping. The three of them chatted and laughed as they walked into the depths of the main building. This was a very large hall. There were only 6 seats in this hall, and each seat was extremely luxurious. At this moment, Ji Wuming was sitting in the main seat. The other 2 seats were also occupied by 2 wide-robed old men. Zhuowen knew that these 2 wide-robed old men should be the other 2 immortal masters of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. "The 3 of you are here? Sit down." Ji Wuming pointed at the other 3 empty seats and said. Zhuowen and the other 2 sat down. Huan Taiping sat beside him and quietly introduced the other 2 immortal masters to Zhuowen. Among the 2 immortal masters, one of them was an old man with a brandy nose called Jiang Kong. The other old man with sharp eyes was called Xiao Yi. According to Huan Taiping's introduction, these 2 immortal masters weren't alchemy masters, but divine array masters. Moreover, they were Genesis stage divine array masters. It seemed that in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Genesis Stage Alchemy Masters and Divine Array Masters were equally divided. While Zhuowen was sizing up the two Immortal Masters, Jiankong and Xiao Yi were also sizing up Zhuowen. This time, I called you here mainly to tell you about the qualifiers for the Pill Array Dao domain. I'm afraid that all of this will depend on Immortal Master Zhuowen. Ji Wuming's gaze fell on Zhuowen, and he said with a smile, "Qualifiers." Zhuowen's face was blank. "Immortal Master Zhuo, we wanted to tell you about this before the qualifiers, but you were always in seclusion refining pills, so we didn't have the chance. Actually, it's like this." Huan Taiping sat by Zhuo, Wen sighed, and very dutifully told him about the qualifiers. After listening, Zhuowen revealed a look of understanding. It turned out that the Pill Array Immortal Alliance originated from the Pill Array Dao domain. In the Xianmi Heavenly Domain's East, West, South, and North Dao domains, there were corresponding Pill Array Dao domain branches. Among them, Zhuowen's Pill Array Immortal Alliance was called the Eastern Immortal Alliance. It was mainly open and recruited alchemy array masters from the host domain. The other three Dao domains also had corresponding Pill Array Immortal Alliances. They were the Western Immortal Alliance, the Northern Immortal Alliance, and the Southern Immortal Alliance. The four divisions would hold a qualifier every 10,000 years to select outstanding alchemy array masters from the four divisions to enter the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years. It was said that alchemy array masters who could cultivate in the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years could break through to the third step of the alchemy Dao domain after coming out of seclusion. When the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Ji Wuming, was still an Eternal Stage Alchemy Master, he participated in the qualifiers and stood out, entering the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years. After coming out of seclusion, Ji Wuming was already a peak Genesis Stage Alchemy Master. After returning to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance for 1,000 years, he broke through again and became a Creation Stage Alchemy Master, becoming the Alliance Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. It could be said that this qualifier, which was held once every 10,000 years, was a huge opportunity for the four divisions. It was a grand event that was highly valued. Immortal Master Zhuo, the condition to participate in the qualifier is that you must be younger than 10,000 years old. I've seen your bone age. You're very young and definitely not older than 10,000 years old. Moreover, you've passed the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. You're the best candidate for this qualifier. Ji Wuming smiled at Zhuowen. He thought highly of Zhuowen. Not to mention that Zhuowen had passed the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Just the fact that Zhuowen was younger than 10,000 years old and could cultivate both Alchemy Dao and Array Dao to the Eternal Stage already surpassed most of the Alchemy Array Masters in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Ji Wuming felt that Zhuowen had a high chance of standing out in this qualifier and entering the Pill Array Dao domain. Alliance Master Ji, does the Pill Array Dao domain have any transcending heaven alchemy masters? Zhuowen didn't immediately agree. Instead, he asked the question in his heart with an expectant look in his eyes. Ji Wuming looked proud and smiled faintly. The Pill Array Dao domain is the origin of the Pill Array Dao in the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. Naturally, there are transcending heaven alchemy masters, but there are very few of them. I only know of one. As for whether there are more, I'm not too sure. Okay, then I'll participate in this qualifier. Zhuowen said firmly. Seeing that Zhuowen had agreed, Ji Wuming and the others smiled. With Immortal Master Zhuo's help, our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a better chance of winning the qualifier. Immortal Master Zhuo must remember that there are only about 200 years until the qualifier begins. I hope Immortal Master Zhuo can cultivate alchemy Dao during this time. Zhuowen nodded, indicating that he understood. Then he took a deep breath and cupped his fists. Alliance Master Ji, I have a request. I hope Alliance Master Ji can agree to it. Chapter 28:30. 8 Scenery Soul Concentrating Divine Piljua when clasped his fist again. Caution appeared in his eyes as he took out a translucent crystal coffin from his large world. A beautiful woman lay quietly in the crystal coffin. She looked like a sleeping beauty with a unique temperament. Master Zhua, what are you? Huan Taiping was the first to speak. He looked at the crystal coffin and asked. Fang Zisher and the other 3 master immortals were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why Zhuowen took out a crystal coffin. Ji Wuming, on the other hand, looked serious when he saw Zhuowen take out the crystal coffin. Ji Wuming landed next to the crystal coffin and stared at the beautiful woman in the coffin. He frowned and said, "What a cruel method. The 6 desires in this woman's soul have been stripped away. And if I'm not wrong, the 6 desires in her body were also stripped away, but they have been artificially restored." Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen and asked for Zhuowen's opinion. "Her name is Moyan Wushang, and she's my confidant." Zhuowen looked at the beautiful woman sleeping in the crystal coffin. His eyes were full of gentleness. He told her about how Moyan Wushang lost his 6 desires and how his soul almost dissipated. After everyone present heard this, they were all moved. Moyan Wushang's fate was indeed very rough. Moyan Wushang became like this because of Zhuowen, so Zhuowen owed Moyan Wushang a huge debt of gratitude. I have to say that the person who performed the technique was very vicious. They controlled the 6 desires of this woman in the palm of their hand. Her life and death were all in their hands. It's not difficult to restore the 6 desires of this woman's body. You've already done it. However, this matter involves the level of the soul. It's extremely tricky. Ji Wuming shook his head and gave Zhuowen a helpless look. Alliance Master Ji, you are the only creation-grade alchemist in the host region. Could it be that even you are helpless? Zhuowen was disheartened. Ji Wuming shook his head in shame. The loss of the 6 desires was a very tricky problem. If he was careless, Moyan Wushang's spirit would be completely destroyed, and there would be no room for recovery. Ji Wuming could try to save Moyan of Wushang, but he had less than a 10% chance of success. If he failed, Moyan of Wushang's soul would scatter. There was only one chance, so Ji Wuming didn't dare to take the risk. But I can help you stabilize her divine soul. Due to the lack of the 6 desires, her divine soul seems to have lost its 6 pillars. Her divine soul is unstable and may collapse at any time. Ji Wuming continued. Zhuowen sighed and cupped his hands at Ji Wuming. "Thank you, Leader Ji." Zhuowen knew that Ji Wuming was willing to help him for free because of him. Of course, Zhuowen wasn't an ungrateful person. At the same time, he also knew that if a creation-grade alchemist like Ji Wuming couldn't restore Moyan of Wushang's 6 desires, then perhaps only a heaven-grade alchemist could do it. Of course, if he could refine the 6 desires spirit condensing pill, he could also completely save Moyan of Wushang. But whether it was a heaven-grade alchemist or a 6 desires spirit condensing pill, they were too far away for him. Ji Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Zhuowen didn't have to be so polite. Then he opened the crystal coffin and pointed his right hand at Moyan of Wushang's forehead. Ji Wuming pinched his index and middle fingers together and spewed out a 5-colored flame. This flame was extremely strange. It seemed to have a terrifying temperature, but it didn't cause any burns on Moyan of Wushang's forehead. In the hall, Zhuowen and the other 4 immortal masters didn't speak. They just looked at Ji Wuming quietly. About half an hour later, Ji Wuming retracted his right hand and closed the coffin lid again. He looked at Zhuowen with a dignified expression. This lady's soul has already begun to crumble, and it's extremely severe. I can only suppress the crumbling of her soul. But if I want to completely stabilize this lady's soul, I'll need to refine the 8 scenery soul-condensing divine pill. Ji Wuming paused and looked at Zhuo. When the 8 sceneries soul-condensing divine pill is a fortune-grade divine pill. I have most of the ingredients, but I'm still missing the main ingredient, the elusive realm underworld soul flower. You need to help me find the elusive realm flower. The elusive realm flower is a creation-grade divine pill. Even the Divine Medicine Valley doesn't have it. I'm afraid it's not easy to find. Huan Taiping's expression changed slightly. Ji Wuming suddenly said, I remember that the elusive realm flower once appeared in the nether hell of the 10 Extreme Incorp sect. Zhuowen, wait a moment. I'll contact the sect master of the 10 Extreme Incorp sect and see if he can hand over the elusive realm flower. Ji Wuming took out a communication jade talisman and contacted the sect master of the 10 Extreme Incorp sect. But soon, Ji Wuming's expression turned ugly. Alliance Master, what's wrong? Huan Taiping asked. Ji Qingyin has been evading my request. He won't give me the elusive realm flower. Even if I offer him a creation-grade divine pill, he won't agree. Ji Wuming said helplessly, the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower is very beneficial to Ji Qingyin's cultivation. Once the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower appears in the underworld hell, Ji Qingyin will immediately take it away. It is not likely that he will hand over the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower. Fang Zisher sighed. Then I'll go to the nether hell. Since he won't exchange with the Alliance Master, he'll at least give me face, and let the cultivators of the pill array Immortal Alliance enter the nether hell, right? Zhuowen said in a deep voice, if it's just a spot to enter the nether hell, that old monster Ji Qingyin will indeed agree. Ji Wuming nodded, but continued worriedly, the Umbra Hell is the training ground of the Incorp sect of the 10 Extremes. It is also a famous killing ground in the host territory. If you go in there, you will either kill or be killed. Who knows how many cultivators have died in there? Ji Wuming didn't finish his words, but his meaning was obvious. Zhuowen wasn't strong enough, so entering the nether hell was courting death. Alliance Master Ji, don't worry. I have the ability to protect myself. You said that the elusive realm flower can only be produced in the nether hell. Moreover, Wushang's divine soul is very unstable now. If it's too late, I may regret it for the rest of my life. Zhuowen was very calm. He looked at Ji Wuming with a firm gaze. Ji Wuming frowned. Zhuowen was the main force participating in the Pill Array Dao Domain qualification competition. Although there was still some time before the start of the qualification competition, he didn't want Zhuowen to have an accident during this period. However, Zhuowen's tone was firm and unyielding. Ji Wuming also knew that if he tried to persuade him, it would be futile. Chapter 28:31, Universe Explosion Array. Since you have already made up your mind, I won't say anything more. I will ask Ji Qingyin for a slot to enter the Umbra Hell for you, but you must be careful. Ji Wuming took out a set of array flags from his spirit ring and handed it to Zhuowen. This is the Universe Explosion Array, a Genesis-grade array. It can help you escape from a life and death crisis. Zhuowen accepted the Universe Explosion Array, but he didn't care too much about it. He had the Ho-E Godly Bow and Ho-E Godly Arrow, which were much more terrifying than the Universe Explosion Array. As long as it wasn't a terrifying expert like the Master of Creation, Zhuowen wouldn't be afraid. In the end, Zhuowen left Moyan Wushang here under Ji Wuming's request. While he left, Ji Wuming promised that he would help Zhuowen get a slot to enter the Umbra Hell within a few days. Zhuowen only needed to wait patiently. Before leaving, Zhuowen urged Huan Taiping to leave with him. He needed to ask Huan Taiping where the most skilled blacksmith was in Pillaray Immortal City. Immortal Master Zhua, you want to find a blacksmith? Could it be that you want to forge some kind of divine tool? Huan Taiping was puzzled. The Umbra Hell is filled with unknown dangers, so I naturally need to be well prepared, Zhuowen said. Huan Taiping nodded and enthusiastically brought Zhuowen to a shop called Myriad Weapons Workshop. But what made Zhuowen speechless was that there was only an old man in the shop. There wasn't even an assistant. At this moment, the old man was sitting on a wooden armchair at the entrance, crossing his legs and humming a tune. He was very idle. When he saw Zhuowen and Huan Taiping enter, he only gave them a sidelong glance and was too lazy to bother with them. This is the most skilled blacksmith in Pillaray Immortal City. Zhuowen was speechless. Huan Taiping was somewhat embarrassed as he said, although the shops of the 10,000 Weapons Lane are a bit sloppy, Master Yuan's superb skills are unparalleled even in the host region. As he said that, Huan Taiping smiled and walked in front of the disheveled old man. Master Yuan, this is a newly promoted immortal master of our Pillaray Immortal Alliance. He wants to find you to forge a divine weapon. See if you can help. Zhuowen found it very strange. Huan Taiping was after all an immortal master of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. Now, he was actually so accommodating towards the disheveled old man. This Master Yuan's identity was probably not simple. Oh, so the little demon who passed the 12th floor of the Pillaray Pagoda was him. Interesting. Since it's Zhuowen, I'll forge a divine artifact for you for free. Master Yuan suddenly became spirited. He looked at Zhuowen from head to toe as if he was looking at a rare treasure. Zhuowen felt goosebumps all over his body as Master Yuan looked at him. He was somewhat puzzled. Why did this old man suddenly become spirited when he heard that it was him? That Ji Wuming only passed the 11th floor of the Pillaray Pagoda, but you surpassed him. This makes this old man feel very relieved. I finally got to see that Ji Wuming suffer. What divine weapon do you want? Just tell me. As long as it's made by me, Yuan Jiani, it won't be an ordinary item. Master Yuan laughed loudly. Zhuowen felt relieved. It seemed like this disheveled old man had suffered a loss at the hands of Ji Wuming before. Thus, he held a grudge against Ji Wuming. I need you to forge a batch of arrows for me. They have to be at least of the Genesis tier. Zhuowen said. The reason he needed arrows was naturally to prepare for the Ho-I Divine Bow. Although the Ho-I Divine Bow and the Ho-I Divine Arrow were powerful, the killing intent of the two was too terrifying. Even he would be seriously injured every time he used it. If he used ordinary arrows, he would be able to withstand the one-sided killing intent of the Ho-I Divine Bow. Moreover, the arrows shot out would be extremely powerful. Although they couldn't be compared to the Ho-I Divine Arrow, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight against a Genesis tier expert. More importantly, the Ho-I Divine Arrow was too extraordinary and ostentatious. Others could tell that it was extraordinary with a single glance. The Ho-I Divine Bow, on the other hand, looked like an ordinary wooden bow. Only when the bow was drawn would it show its extraordinary power. Normally, it wouldn't attract the attention of others. Master Yuan agreed straightforwardly and told him to come back 3 days later. After that, he hurriedly drove Zhuowen and Huan Taiping out. Immortal Master Zhua, don't mind him. Master Yuan has always been like this. Huan Taiping smiled awkwardly. Zhuowen didn't mind. As long as the arrows forged by Master Yuan were of high quality, it didn't matter whether Master Yuan's attitude was good or bad. 3 days later, Ji Wuming sent him a message. He had already secured a place for him to enter the Nether Hell. As long as he went to the 10 Extremes Corpse sect, he would be able to enter the Nether Hell directly. During these 3 days, Zhuowen had asked Ji Wuming about the 1,000-year flowerless eyes, red cloud blue sunred, blazing phoenix exquisite leaf, Buddha yellow water bamboo, 3 realms flower chinyu, and crimson moon star ripple milk. What surprised Zhuowen was that Ji Wuming had only heard of 3 of these divine medicines. As for the other 3, he hadn't even heard of them. Zhuowen also knew that the heavenly divine medicines were extremely rare in the host region. Even the Pill Array Immortal Alliance didn't have any divine medicines of this level. Ji Wuming suggested that the heavenly divine medicines could only be found in the Pill Array Dao domain. The host region might have them, but they definitely grew in extremely secretive and dangerous places. Zhuowen sighed in his heart. He knew that it was impossible for him to find the 6 divine medicines of the 6 desires spirit condensing Saint Pill unless he was lucky or entered the Pill Array Dao domain. At the same time, Yuan Jianni's forging was also completed. He sent someone to personally deliver it to Zhuowen's residence. The quota and arrow forging for the Nether Hell had been completed, but Zhuowen didn't immediately go to the 10 Extremes Corpse sect. After instructing Fire Plume and the others to stay in the Pill Array Immortal City, he went to the inn where Xia Qinfan and the others were staying. "Big brother Zhuowen, why are you here?" Xia Qinfan looked at Zhuowen in surprise. Zhuowen smiled and said, "Miss Xia, I heard that your father was injured hundreds of years ago and went into seclusion. I've already advanced to the eternal grade. Maybe I can go to the Taisui Sword Sect to take a look at your father." Xia Qinfan was startled. She immediately lowered her head and thanked Zhuowen. She was a smart woman. She knew that Zhuowen's real purpose was to help her. The current situation of the Taisui Sword Sect was very unclear. Zhang Qingxuan's faction controlled almost 80% of the Taisui Sword Sect's forces. This time, Xia Qinfan's faction had chosen the right alchemist and made a big splash in the Pill Dao domain Grand Assembly. They had also obtained 10 quotas to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. Once Xia Qinfan and the others returned to the Taisui Sword Sect, what greeted them wasn't cheers from the sect. Instead, they were suppressed and made things difficult for by Zhang Qingxuan's faction. Chapter 28:32. Zhang Qingxuan waved his hand, indicating that Xia Qinfan didn't need to thank him. At this moment, Xia Qinfan's door was knocked at an untimely moment. Moreover, the knocking was very urgent, as if it was a ghost. "Xia Qinfan, Senior Brother Zhan has sent a message urging you to return to the Taisui Sword faction within a few days. Otherwise, Senior Brother Zhan will personally come to interrogate you." An extremely arrogant and impatient voice came from outside the door. Zhuowen opened the door and saw that the person knocking on the door was Jiang Mo, whom he had sent flying with a slap. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes, and a hint of coldness flashed in them. "You're finally willing to open the door. Xia Qinfan, you don't live up to your title as the daughter of the sect leader. The Taisui Sword faction is now under Senior Brother Zhan's control. If you don't listen, then just wait." When Jiang Mo saw the door open, the arrogance on his face became even stronger. He did not even see the person who opened the door, but he was shouting arrogantly. However, when Jiang Mo saw the face of the person who opened the door, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. He was rooted to the spot, and his neck unconsciously stretched out like a rooster being lifted by the neck. "Immortal! Immortal Master Zhuo!" Jiang Mo covered his right cheek and hurriedly backed away, revealing a smile that was uglier than crying. He would never forget the slap that Zhuowen gave him a few days ago. That slap had caused his right cheek to swell up, and all his teeth on the right side had been shattered. Jiang Mo would never forget that heart-wrenching pain. "You're too noisy." Zhuowen's eyes were indifferent. He grabbed Jiang Mo and slapped him on his left cheek. The tragic Jiang Mo screamed. His originally intact left cheek was completely swollen, and his right cheek was swollen, making him look like a pig's head. Jiang Mo, on the other hand, was sprawled on the ground, unconscious. Miss Xia, it seems that your situation in the Tai Sui sword faction is not good. Zhuowen looked at Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan smiled bitterly and said, Zhan Chengxian was my father's last disciple and was deeply loved by my father. My father even taught him a lot of divine abilities. However, I didn't expect that after my father was seriously injured and on the verge of death, Zhan Chengxian would be so ungrateful that he wanted to kill me and take the position of sect master. Big Brother Zhuo, I know that you are very powerful, but even if the Tai Sui sword sect has declined, it is still a Dao Palace level force. If you follow me back to the Tai Sui sword sect, you will probably suffer. Zhuowen said, Lady Xia, don't worry. I'm now an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Even if I follow you back to the Tai Sui sword sect, Zhan Chengxian won't dare to do anything to me. If he dares to touch me, his life will come to an end. Xia Qinfan went silent. Zhuowen was right. Zhuowen's status was no longer the same as before. He was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Anyone who dared to touch Zhuowen would be going against the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The next day, Zhuowen bid farewell to Ji Wuming, Huan Taiping, and the others. He followed Xia Qinfan and left the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Zhuowen sat in a luxurious cabin, looking down at the trembling Jiang Mo, who was kneeling on the ground. Tell me about Zhan Qingxuan's cultivation and the current situation of the Tai Sui sword sect. Zhuowen said indifferently. Zhuowen didn't directly take Jiang Mo's life. Instead, he kept him alive to obtain more information about the Tai Sui sword sect. From Jiang Mo, Zhuowen learned that Zhan Chengxian was indeed a genius. It was said that he had cultivated for less than 2,000 years and was already a half-step Genesis overlord. His strength was terrifying, and he had once escaped from an early-stage Genesis overlord. Apart from Zhan Chengxian, the Tai Sui sword sect didn't have any other half-step Genesis overlords. They only had 7 or 8 eternal overlords. It could be said that the Tai Sui sword sect's current strength was only slightly stronger than some Dao sections. Any Dao Palace sect could easily crush the Tai Sui sword sect. Ever since Zhuowen's Pango's sacred body had advanced to 5 stars, he didn't even put a late-stage Genesis overlord like Yin Wuxier in his eyes. As for the Lightning God Park and the Huangji family, who had previously caused him to be in a sorry state, they were nothing in his eyes. A mere Tai Sui sword sect was truly insignificant in Zhuowen's eyes. This time, he wanted Xia Qinfan to become the new sect master of the Tai Sui sword sect. If Zhan Chengxian objected, it would give Zhuowen a reason to make a move. The Tai Sui sword sect was built in a huge valley. This valley was enshrouded in a thin layer of white mist, and it looked like a paradise. When Xia Qinfan, Zhuowen, and the others arrived at the mountain gate, a handsome young man in white was already waiting for them. A refined smile hung on the corner of the white-clothed youth's mouth. He said to Xia Qinfan, Junior Sister Qinfan, you've come back really late. I remember that the pill tempering conference ended a long time ago. Why have you only come back now? Senior Brother Zhan, you don't have to worry about this. I felt comfortable staying in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, so I stayed a little longer. Can't I? Xia Qinfan said bluntly. Zhan Chengxian smiled slightly. He didn't even look at Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's aura was too weak. He was only Lord Chaos Yuan. In his eyes, this person was probably just a servant. However, When Zhang Chengxian saw Jiang Mo, who had been beaten to a pulp, his expression instantly turned ugly. What's going on? Jiang Mo, how did you end up like this? Zhang Chengxian stared at Jiang Mo, his voice filled with monstrous anger. Jiang Mo secretly glanced at Zhuowen and lowered his head. He didn't dare to speak in front of Zhuowen. Ever since Zhuowen had slapped him twice, Jiang Mo had become much more obedient. He didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen in the slightest. Even before he spoke, he would subconsciously glance at Zhuowen to ask for his opinion. Zhang Chengxian also noticed Jiang Mo's gaze, but he still didn't pay much attention to Zhuowen. In his opinion, what could a mere Lord Chaos Yuan do? Junior Sister Xia, Jiang Mo is the leader of this team that I appointed. Now that he's in this state, aren't you also responsible? Zhang Chengxian said unhappily as he shifted his attention to Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan frowned slightly and said, Jiang Mo offended someone he shouldn't have. It has nothing to do with us. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jiang Mo. Sure enough, when Zhang Qingxuan's gaze landed on Jiang Mo again, he saw that the latter was smiling and nodding repeatedly. Although Zhang Chengxian found that there were many suspicious points, he didn't take it to heart. The reason he had personally come out to greet them was mainly because of the divine herbs that Xia Qinfan had obtained from the Divine Medicine Valley. Previously, Jiang Mo had sent him a message saying that Xia Qinfan was extremely lucky. She had unintentionally invited a powerful alchemist and obtained first place in the pill pageant. Moreover, that alchemist was extremely generous and gave Xia Qinfan 10 spots. According to the rules of the Divine Medicine Valley, every cultivator that entered the Divine Medicine Valley had a chance to obtain 5 divine herbs. 10 spots meant 50 divine herbs, and all of them were second-step Dao validation divine herbs. These 50 divine herbs were a huge fortune to Zhang Chengxian and the Taisui sword sect. Since it has nothing to do with Junior Sister Xia, then I won't pursue the matter. Junior Sister, you've worked hard this time. Give all the divine herbs you obtained to me for safekeeping. It's not safe to leave so many divine herbs with you. Chapter 28:33. Sword Tower Xia Qinfan looked at Zhang Chengxian and said in a low voice, Senior Brother Zhang, according to the sect rules, the divine herbs I obtained must be handed over to the sect leader for safekeeping. Senior Brother Zhang isn't the sect leader yet, right? Zhang Qingxuan's face stiffened, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, Before Master went into seclusion, he asked me to manage the Taisui sword sect. Therefore, I am now the acting sect leader. It is reasonable for me to safekeep the divine herbs. Xia Qinfan handed a spirit ring to Zhang Chengxian, who took it happily. After checking it, his eyes turned gloomy. Only 10 divine herbs. Zhang Chengxian said coldly, Senior Brother Zhang, you are only the acting sect leader. You don't have such great authority. I want to hand the remaining divine herbs to my father personally. You said that my father went into seclusion to heal, but it has been so long and there is no news. I must see him. Xia Qinfan said coldly. Zhang Chengxian frowned, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, Junior Sister Xia, do you not trust me? I don't dare. Junior Sister has not seen my father in a long time, so I want to see him. Xia Qinfan did not back down. At that moment, the Supreme Elder standing beside Xia Qinfan spoke up, Chengxian, since Qinfan wants to see the sect master, just let her see him. After all, Qinfan is the sect master's daughter. It's only right for a daughter to see her father. Zhang Qingxuan's eyes flickered, and he nodded. Since the Grand Elder has spoken, I can't refuse. Junior Sister Qinfan and Grand Elder, follow me. I will follow too. Zhuowen stood out and said indifferently, Who do you think you are? What right do you have to ask me? Zhang Chengxian looked at Zhuowen and narrowed his eyes. His tone was not polite. On the other hand, Jiang Mo's entire body trembled as he fell to his knees with a plop. He wanted to remind Zhang Chengxian that the person standing in front of him was not an ordinary person. He was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Jiang Mo, what's wrong with you? When Zhang Chengxian saw Jiang Mo kneeling on the ground in such a cowardly manner, he felt that something was amiss. Jiang Mo trembled as he glanced at Zhuowen, then turned to Zhang Chengxian and stammered, "Senior apprentice Brother Zhang, the person beside me is Pill Array Immortal Alliance's new immortal master, Zhuowen." Zhang Chengxian's body trembled. He looked at Zhuowen and blurted out, "You're that Zhuowen who got first place in the Pill Grand Assembly and passed through the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda?" "Hee, Brother Zhang, you're wrong. I'm nothing. How can I have the qualifications to criticize Brother Zhang?" Zhuowen said indifferently. Zhang Chengxian's heart trembled, and he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized. "Immortal Master, Zhuo must be joking. Just now, this Zhang had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope, Immortal Master, Zhuo won't pursue this matter. What if I insist on pursuing the matter? I, Zhuowen, am an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. How dare you say I'm nothing in front of me? It doesn't matter if you look down on me, but if you look down on the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I won't let this matter slide. When I return, I'll definitely report this matter to the Alliance head. When the time comes, I think Brother Zhang should know better than me what will happen to your Tai Sui sword faction." Zhuowen's tone was leisurely, but Zhang Chengxian felt his scalp go numb. He cursed Jiang Mo in his heart for not informing him of Zhuowen's identity earlier. Zhang Chengxian had wrongly accused Jiang Mo. When Jiang Mo knew that Zhuowen was coming, the latter had already confiscated his communication jade talisman in advance. Jiang Mo couldn't even contact Zhang Chengxian, even if he wanted to. He knew how terrifying Zhuowen was. In front of Zhuowen, he didn't dare to speak carelessly. He was afraid that Zhuowen would slap him again and beat him half to death. He was really scared. "Immortal Master Zhuo, it's all my fault. Immortal Master, what do you want me to do?" Zhang Chengxian felt sullen, especially since this Zhuowen was only a small primordial chaos lord. There was a huge gap between them, but he had no choice but to lower his voice. After all, Zhuowen was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Even when the Tai Sui sword faction was at its peak, it was still far from being comparable to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, let alone the fact that the Tai Sui sword faction had completely declined. One had to know that the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was a huge force that even the 5 Dao palaces of the host region had to treat as equals. Even though the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, they had friends all over the world. Their connections were spread across the entire host region. A cultivator's cultivation required the use of divine elixirs and formations. The greater the power, the higher the requirements for formations and divine elixirs. In the host region, there were too many people who came to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to ask for god pills and array formations. Among them were many old monsters who had retreated from the world. Even the 5 Dao palaces had asked the Pill Array Immortal Alliance for help and owed them some favors. Even though the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, once someone set their sights on the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance could easily gather a group of terrifyingly strong experts. An immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was someone Zhang Chengxian couldn't afford to offend. He could only lower his stance. Zhang Chengxian's submission attracted the attention of the other disciples of the Tai Sui sword faction. They looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of respect. They had heard the conversation just now and knew that this ordinary-looking youth was actually an honorable immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Your mouth is very ugly. Slap yourself 81 times. Don't hold back, Zhuowen said indifferently. Zhang Qingxuan's eyes darkened. He clenched his fists tightly and finally slapped himself according to Zhuowen's request. Slap, 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 slap. Zhang Chengxian kept slapping himself. The disciples of the Taisui sword faction behind him were all stunned. They didn't expect that the powerful and ruthless senior brother Zhan would actually follow the youth's request and slap himself. After slapping himself, Zhang Qingxuan's mouth was completely swollen like 2 sausages. It was a comical sight. That's enough. Didn't Lady Xia tell you to bring him to see his father? Now bring us there. Zhuowen said expressionlessly. Zhang Qingxuan's mouth was so swollen that he couldn't speak clearly. He could only reply with his spiritual will. Then he brought Xia Qinfan, Zhuowen, and the Supreme Elder to the seclusion area of the Taisui sword faction's sect master. As for the other disciples that Xia Qinfan brought back, they were arranged to stay in the Taisui sword faction's disciple quarters. Zhang Chengxian finally stopped in front of a sword-shaped building. He pointed at the building and replied to Zhuowen with his spiritual will, "The sect master is in seclusion in this sword tower. Due to his serious injuries, I think it's best if a mortal master Zhuo doesn't disturb him." "Bring us in," Xia Qinfan said coldly. Chapter 28:34. Face-changing the sword gauntlet was huge. It was shaped like a divine sword that fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the sword gauntlet, he immediately felt a powerful sword energy that was faintly emitted from the inside. This sword energy was extremely sharp and even contained killing intent. Zhang Chengxian opened the door to the deepest room. It was pitch black inside, and he said, "Sect master is inside." "Father!" Xia Qinfan did not even think and entered the room. The Supreme Elder followed closely behind her. Zhuowen looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and said, "You're not going in?" Zhang Chengxian quickly cupped his hands and said, "I'll pass. I promised the sect master that I would not disturb him, so I won't go in. Does Immortal Master Zhuo have any other instructions? If not, I'll take my leave first." Zhuowen looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and waved his hand casually. Zhang Chengxian bowed and slowly left the sword gauntlet. This Zhang Chengxian has guts. From the start, he planned to lure Lady Xia and the Supreme Elder into the sword gauntlet and kill the 2 of them in one fell swoop. The moment Zhuowen entered the sword gauntlet, his divine sense had already sensed that there was a peerless killing array around the sword gauntlet. The level of this killing array was not low, Xia Qinfan, and the Supreme Elder would not be able to block such a terrifying killing array. As for Zhuowen, although he was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, his strength was too weak. In Zhang Qingxuan's eyes, he would definitely not be able to escape after entering the killing array. Although Zhuowen saw through the killing array, he was waiting for Zhang Chengxian to make a move. He was waiting for Zhang Chengxian to give him a reason to kill him. If Zhang Chengxian was apprehensive of Zhuowen's identity as an immortal master and did not activate the killing array, then Zhuowen would at most help Xia Qinfan ascend the position and would not attack Zhang Chengxian. If he activated the killing array, Zhuowen would not be polite and would definitely kill Zhang Chengxian. Thinking of this, Zhuowen entered the depths of the room. With a flick of his finger, Zhuowen ignited the divine flame and used it as a torch to illuminate the surrounding environment. Around him was an empty space that looked like a warehouse. In the deepest part of the room, there was a huge iron cage with a figure locked inside. This figure was a man with disheveled hair and tattered clothes. He looked like a beggar on the streets. However, from this sloppy man's angular face, it could be seen that if this man was groomed, he would definitely be a handsome man. "Father, weren't you in seclusion? Why are you locked here?" Xia Qinfan rushed to the front of the iron cage and shook the iron cage door with all her might. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at the sloppy man in the iron cage, and her voice was filled with anger and disbelief. Cough, cough. The sloppy man was awakened by Xia Qinfan's voice. Then he widened his eyes and said excitedly, "Qinfan, is it really you?" "It's me. Father, what's wrong with you? Why was he locked up here? Didn't Zhang Chengxian say that you were in seclusion to recuperate?" Xia Qinfan was filled with questions. At the same time, she vaguely guessed something. That traitorous disciple. My injuries were mostly healed 200 years ago. However, that traitorous disciple suddenly attacked me and severely injured me. He even imprisoned me in the depths of the sword gauntlet. The sloppy man's eyes widened and were spitting fire. Clearly, he was unable to restrain his anger when he recalled Zhang Chengshuan's actions. What? Why did Zhang Chengxian do this? Could it be for the position of sect leader? The Supreme Elder was also shocked and said angrily, "Yes, that traitorous disciple has always wanted to control the Taisui sword sect. Back then, I had already decided to pass the position of sect leader to Qinfan. However, I don't know how that traitorous disciple found out about it. Then, that traitorous disciple plotted everything." The sloppy man said in a deep voice, "That's right. Hurry up and leave. That traitorous disciple has set up a powerful killing array in the sword gauntlet. You are simply walking into a trap by entering here." The sloppy man seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly urged Xia Qinfan to leave this place. "It's too late. We didn't sneak into the sword gauntlet. It was Zhang Chengxian who let us in." Zhuowen, who was standing at the side, suddenly spoke. The sloppy man looked at Zhuowen in confusion. He didn't know Zhuowen. However, he didn't ask too much. He hurriedly said, "Why are you all so stupid? Can't you see that Zhang Chengxian is a wolf with wild ambitions? You actually followed him obediently into the sword gauntlet." The sloppy man was exasperated. In the end, he sighed helplessly and despair filled his heart. Xia Qinfan was also scared silly. She didn't know what to do and didn't know what to say. On the other hand, the Supreme Elder was rather calm. He pointed at Zhuowen and said to the sloppy man, "Sect leader, this little brother is a newly promoted immortal master of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. He has a high status. I think that with Immortal Master Zhua here, that Zhang Chengxian shouldn't act rashly. After all, if something happens to Immortal Master Zhua, the Pillaray Immortal Alliance will definitely blame Zhang Chengxian." The sloppy man was shocked. He hurriedly bowed to Zhuowen and said, "You're actually an immortal master of the Pillaray Immortal Alliance? This old man is Xia Yizhu. My eyes were blind just now and didn't recognize Immortal Master." Zhuowen waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. He said in a low voice, "That Zhang Chengxian will give me face, so I'm sure he'll be somewhat apprehensive. Now, I'll let you out, sect leader Xia." With that, Zhuowen grabbed the iron cage's door with his right hand and pulled, forcefully ripping the door off. Xia Yizhu was shocked. This iron cage wasn't made of ordinary materials. It was made of extremely hard and precious black iron. Even an eternal overlord wouldn't be able to easily open it. However, this immortal Master Zhua had actually ripped the iron cage's door open with his bare hands. What kind of enormous strength did this require? "Many thanks, Immortal Master Zhua." Xia Yizhu hurriedly thanked and bowed to Zhuowen as he walked out of the cage. Zhuowen waved his hand and said, "No need for unnecessary formalities. Let's leave the sword gauntlet first." With that, Zhuowen led the three of them toward the entrance. However, they quickly discovered that the entrance was already firmly shut. Moreover, the light of a formation flowed on the door's surface. It was obvious that an extremely powerful formation had been set up. Not good. That Zhang Chengxian really has wild ambitions. He wants to trap us here and kill us. The Grand Elder's expression changed drastically. Zhuowen's gaze was calm as he looked up and said coldly, "Zhang Chengxian, you've got some nerve. You clearly know who I am, yet you still dare to activate a killing formation to kill me?" Soon, Zhang Qingxuan's arrogant voice rang out from the surrounding space. "Immortal Master Zhua, I'm truly sorry. I originally didn't target you, but you insisted on following Xia Qinfan into the sword gauntlet. You're being too nosy." Chapter 28:35. One Arrow Xia Qinfan shouted, "Zhang Chengxian, you're too shameless. My father has never mistreated you, yet you sneak attacked him and imprisoned him here for hundreds of years. Now you want to kill us? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" Zhang Chengxian snorted coldly. "I've always been grateful to Master. I'm so outstanding and more talented than you. Master should have passed the sect master's position to me, but he actually chose a slut like you. I refuse to accept this. If Master had passed the sect master's position to me, I would have naturally treated him well and respected him. Unfortunately, he betrayed me, so don't blame me for being heartless." Zhuowen shook his head inwardly. He knew that Zhang Qingxuan's mentality was somewhat twisted. Xia Yizhu was the sect master. He had the final say in who he passed the sect master's position to. Not passing it to Zhang Chengxian was a betrayal in his eyes. Zhuowen really didn't know what to say. "Zhang Chengxian, before entering the sword gauntlet, I gave you a chance. If you hadn't activated the killing formation, I would have let you live. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong path." Zhuowen shook his head, but that only caused Zhang Chengxian to mock him. He laughed loudly and said, "Immortal Master Zhua, I don't deny that your alchemy skills are very high, but you're just a mere primordial chaos lord. In my eyes, you're just an ant, a piece of trash. Yet you still let me live? Rumble." As soon as Zhang Chengxian finished speaking, the entire sword gauntlet trembled violently. Shortly after, Zhuowen discovered that the surrounding space had suddenly exploded with sharp sword qi. These sword qi contained peerless killing intent. Like a meat grinder, they wanted to envelop Zhuowen and the others and grind them into pieces. Xia Qinfan, Xia Yizhu, and the Grand Elder's expressions changed greatly. The killing formation's power was too terrifying. It gave them a feeling that they couldn't resist. "It's an eternal killing formation. It looks like we're going to die here." Xia Yizhu smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder and Xia Qinfan also fell silent. Xia Qinfan was only a Heaven's Mandate Lord, so she wouldn't be of much use. Xia Yizhu, on the other hand, was too heavily injured and didn't even have a tenth of his strength left. Although the Grand Elder was an eternal overlord, he was only an early-stage eternal overlord. In the face of an eternal overlord formation, he could barely hold on. Moreover, he had to protect Xia Qinfan and Xia Yizhu, so the situation was even worse. Zhuowen calmly stood where he was. He took out an ordinary-looking dagger, and then he took out an arrow from the great world with his right hand. This arrow wasn't a Ho-I Divine arrow. Instead, it was a Genesis arrow forged by Master Yuan. Zhuowen placed the tail feathers of the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring to a third of the angle. Suddenly, a monstrous killing intent surged out. With Zhuowen as the center, the horrifying killing intent spread out in all directions in a ring shape. It actually dispersed the horrifying killing intent produced by the killing array in the sword tower. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder all stared at Zhuowen in shock. They stared fixedly at the ordinary-looking wooden bow in Zhuowen's hand. This horrifying killing intent was actually emitted by this ordinary-looking wooden bow. Moreover, its power was even more terrifying than the killing array in the sword tower. Bang! Zhuowen released the bowstring. The arrow left the bowstring with a thunderous sound. The arrow was extremely fast. It streaked across the sky and shot into the dome of the sword tower. Crackle! Instantly, the entire sword tower trembled violently. The killing array scattered throughout the sword tower emitted ripples of light. Then, the sound of cloth tearing could be heard. Shortly after, Xia Yizhu and the other two were shocked to find that the terrifying killing array in the sword tower had been torn apart. The pressure that originally enveloped the sword tower had completely dissipated. Countless cracks appeared on the originally indestructible surface of the sword tower. The sword tower was actually starting to collapse and crumble. The eternal level array formation collapsed the moment the arrow was shot. What a terrifying arrow! This Xia Yizhu's eyes were filled with shock and awe. Even if he was at his peak, it would be difficult for him to block this arrow. He would probably be killed in one blow. Thinking of this, Xia Yizhu looked at Zhuowen with an even more solemn gaze. He knew that this immortal master Zhuo before him was unfathomable. Although his aura was only that of Lord Primordial Chaos, his strength was extremely terrifying. Outside the sword tower, Zhang Chengxian stood on a huge divine sword and floated not far from the tower. Jiang Emo silently followed behind him. He looked in the direction of the sword tower, his eyes filled with worry. When he learned that Zhang Chengxian planned to kill Zhuowen as well, he was extremely shocked. He thought that Zhang Chengxian had gone crazy. If Zhuowen died in their Taisui sword sect, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance would definitely not let this matter rest. At that time, their Taisui sword sect would face a calamity of extermination. Although Zhang Chengxian said that he would destroy Zhuowen's corpse after killing him and would never admit that Zhuowen had come to their Taisui sword sect to avoid disaster, Jiang Emo was still filled with worry. On the divine sword, besides Zhang Chengxian and Jiang Emo, there were two other elders. Their auras were powerful, and they were not any weaker than Zhang Chengxian. They were most likely half-step creators and were the cornerstones of the Taisui sword sect. Of the two old men, one had a hideous scar on his face and looked very fierce. The other was a bald old man with a face as gloomy as a venomous snake. Congratulations, Sect Master Zhan. You've eliminated a huge threat. From now on, the Taisui sword sect will be your world. The scarred elder laughed. Hee, this Xia Qinfan came back to die. It's good that she's dead now. With Sect Master Zhan's martial prowess, he'll definitely be able to lead the Taisui sword sect back to its peak, the bald elder said in agreement. Jiang Emo sighed at the back. These two elders were the upper echelons of the Taisui sword sect and were Zhang Qingxuan's loyal supporters. However, what they didn't know was that apart from Xia Qinfan, Xia Yizhu, and the Grand Elder, there was also Zhuowen, the immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. If these two elders knew, they probably wouldn't have urged Zhang Chengxian to activate the killing formation. Rumble! All of a sudden, the huge sword tower collapsed. The killing array that was arranged on the surface of the sword tower also completely collapsed at this moment. The smile on Zhang Qingxuan's face completely froze, and all the hair on his body stood on end. This was because he felt an unprecedented killing intent enveloping his entire body. The crisis of death caused Zhang Chengxian to immediately step on the sword with his right foot, urging it to retreat continuously. Whoosh! The instant the sword tower collapsed, an arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning, shooting toward Zhang Chengxian's vitals. The speed of this arrow was simply too fast. Although Zhang Chengxian was also continuously retreating, his speed couldn't compare to that lightning arrow. In just a short while, the arrow landed in front of Zhang Chengxian. Zhang Chengxian roared in anger and blocked the arrow with his divine sword. Crack! Unfortunately, the divine sword couldn't block the arrow at all. It shattered completely and pierced through Zhang Chengxian in the next breath. The two elders behind Zhang Chengxian immediately sensed that something was wrong. The instant the arrow shot over, they fled in panic. However, the arrow seemed to have a mind of its own. The instant the two elders fled, it directly chased after them and pierced through them, killing them in midair. Chapter 28:36. Refining the Heavenly Mandate, Pill Rumble. The sword gauntlet completely collapsed. Zhuowen slowly walked out of the dust cloud like a peerless god of war. Xia Qinfan supported Xia Yizhu as she looked at the young man before her with a complicated expression. In Xia Qinfan's eyes, Zhuowen was an extremely powerful alchemist. As for his strength, she didn't think he was that powerful. This time, Zhuowen had come alone with her, so she was very worried. She thought that Zhuowen was putting himself in danger, and that his life might be in danger. However, Zhuowen's actions completely dumbfounded her. Not only was Zhuowen's alchemy skills so freakishly terrifying, but even his strength was so terrifying. The sword gauntlet was set up with an eternal grade formation, and Zhang Chengxian and the two elders were famous half-step creators of the Taisui sword sect. However, Zhuowen had only shot a single arrow, and the eternal grade formation had completely collapsed. Zhang Chengxian and the two elders didn't even have the chance to make a sound before their bodies and souls were destroyed. Thank you, Celestial Master Zhua, for helping me get rid of the cancer of the Taisui sword sect. Xia Yizhu was a wily old fox. After discovering that he had been saved, he immediately knelt before Zhuowen and shed tears of gratitude. At the same time, Xia Yizhu saw Xia Qinfan looking at Zhuowen with a strange expression. He wanted to make things right between the two of them. After all, from what Xia Qinfan had said, Zhuowen had come to the Taisui sword sect for her. Xia Qinfan and the Grand Elders also knelt before Xia Yizhu and expressed their gratitude. Zhuowen waved his hand, indicating that Xia Qinfan and the others didn't need to be so polite. Celestial Master Zhua, this has nothing to do with me. I tried to persuade Senior Brother Zhan, but he wouldn't listen. Jiang Emo hurriedly came before Zhuowen and kowtowed repeatedly. His entire body was trembling. Zhuowen was simply too powerful. He had killed the three strongest people of the Taisui sword sect so easily. He was like an ant in front of this person. Jiang Emo couldn't afford to offend such a character. Moreover, Jiang Mo's greatest backer, Zhang Chengxian, had also been killed. Right now, Jiang Mo's heart was filled with fear. He could only beg Zhuowen to spare his life. The commotion caused by the sword tower had naturally attracted the attention of many disciples from the Taisui sword faction. Many of them rushed to the vicinity of the sword tower. When they saw Jiang Emo repeatedly kowtowing to immortal Master Zhuo on the ground while Zhang Chengxian and the two old men's corpses casually fell to the side, their eyes were filled with shock. Discussions and uproars spread out like waves. No one dared to get close, and they watched from afar. What did Senior Martial Brother Jiang Emo do wrong? He's actually kowtowing in such a humble manner. Senior Brother Zhang Chengxian and the two elders actually died. Could this have been done by immortal Master Zhua? No, the sect master has come out of seclusion. Could it be that the sect master made a move? Everyone was suspicious as they tried to guess what had just happened. Zhuowen looked indifferently at Jiang Mo, then said to Xia Yizhu, "Sect Master Xia, I'll leave this person to you." Xia Yizhu cupped his hands at Zhuowen, then summoned 2 experts from the Taisui sword faction to take Jiang Mo away. After that, Xia Yizhu looked at the disciples in the surroundings and said in a loud and clear voice that traitorous disciple, Zhan Qingxian, ambushed me and severely injured me, imprisoning me in the sword tower. Today, immortal Master Zhuo saved me and killed that traitorous disciple. With just a few words, Xia Yizhu exposed Zhan Qingxuan's evil deeds over the years. At the same time, he praised Zhuowen with all his might. His words were filled with admiration for Zhuowen. For a moment, everyone from the Taisui sword faction was shocked. They had always thought that Xia Yizhu had been in seclusion in the sword tower for hundreds of years because his injuries were too severe. Now that Xia Yizhu had revealed himself, the truth was so obvious. Immediately, the disciples of the Taisui sword faction were filled with disdain and contempt for the dead Zhan Qingxian. They felt no pity for him. Many of them were from Zhan Qingxuan's faction, who had once tried to curry favor with him. Now that Zhan Qingxian was dead and Xia Yizhu had appeared, no one dared to refute Xia Yizhu's words. "Greetings, Sect Master Xia." After Xia Yizhu finished speaking, the surrounding Taisui sword faction cultivators all knelt on one knee and greeted Xia Yizhu in unison. Xia Yizhu waved his hand, dispersing the crowd. Soon after, he cupped his hands at Zhuowen and said politely, "Immortal Master Zhuo, I dare not forget the kindness you've shown me today. Why don't you stay in the Taisui sword faction for a while, so that I can properly entertain you?" Zhuowen didn't refuse. He was planning to enter seclusion for a while. His true body's cultivation had already reached the peak of the primordial Chaos Lord realm. He planned to use this time to raise his true body's cultivation. Before that, he needed to refine a large amount of heavenly fate pills for his true body to break through to the heavenly fate Lord realm. Xia Yizhu treated him very well. He arranged the best room for him, provided the prettiest maids, and ordered the servants to follow him wherever he went. However, Zhuowen didn't like such formalities. After entering the room Xia Yizhu had prepared for him, he entered seclusion and refused to be disturbed by anyone. In half a month, Zhuowen had refined a large amount of heavenly fate pills. Zhuowen estimated that the heavenly fate pills he'd refined were enough to nurture several hundred heavenly fate lords for some factions. However, Zhuowen still felt that it wasn't enough. However, he'd used up all the ingredients for the heavenly fate pills, so he thickened his skin and asked Xia Yizhu for the ingredients. Of course, Zhuowen didn't ask for them for free. The Taisui sword faction would split the profits of the heavenly fate pills he refined. Xia Yizhu was naturally overjoyed. Zhuowen was an immortal master of the pill array Immortal Alliance. His alchemy skills far surpassed the other alchemists in their sect. Moreover, the quality of the pills he'd refined was unique, so he naturally agreed. Although the Taisui sword faction had declined greatly, it was still a Dao Palace-level faction. Its foundation was still there, and the ingredients for the heavenly fate pills weren't that precious. Thus, the Taisui sword faction had obtained a large amount of raw materials. Time flew by, and another month passed. Zhuowen had refined nearly 1,000 batches of heavenly fate pills. His room was filled with medicinal bottles, and each bottle was filled with heavenly fate pills. Zhuowen sighed lightly and put away the Pill Emperor furnace. After giving the Pill Emperor Turtle a certain amount of commission, he slammed his right palm on the ground, causing the surrounding medicinal bottles to explode. Numerous heavenly fate pills with soaring medicinal energy appeared. Then, They were shattered by Zhuowen's powerful strength, forming a terrifying storm of medicinal energy that gathered above Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen's eyes glowed. He suddenly inhaled, and a devouring black hole appeared above his head. It began to madly absorb this storm of powerful medicinal energy. Chapter 28:37. Ascension to Heavenly Mandate. Master 3 days passed. In the blink of an eye, Zhuowen's aura had reached an extremely frightening level. The powerful restrictions in Zhuowen's room trembled violently. Cracks appeared on them, and they finally collapsed. A terrifying aura spread out, causing strange phenomena in heaven and earth. Wind and clouds gathered above Zhuowen's pavilion. Lightning flashed like dragons, and hurricanes wreaked havoc like wild beasts. A terrifying aura swooped down, like a ferocious beast. The Tai Sui sword sect's territory seemed to be subdued by this aura, and it actually caused a series of earthquakes. All the cultivators were shocked as they looked toward the source of the strange phenomenon. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder landed not far from Zhuowen's pavilion. When they saw the terrifying phenomenon in the sky above the pavilion, they all revealed surprised and bewildered expressions. This is the phenomenon of reaching the second step of Tao validation. Was Immortal Master Zhuo really just Lord Chaos before? Xia Yizhu stared blankly in disbelief. Xia Qinfan was also shocked. When Zhuowen shot that terrifying arrow, she had already subconsciously believed that Zhuowen was an existence on the level of a god of creation. As for the fact that Zhuowen's aura was only at the peak of Lord Chaos, this was very easy to explain. Zhuowen must have used some kind of powerful concealment technique to conceal his true aura. However, the phenomenon of Zhuowen breaking through to the heavenly mandate master realm was clearly displayed before them. This caused them to fall silent. They knew that Zhuowen hadn't concealed his cultivation base and aura before. However, this made them even more shocked. Just how freakish was someone who could easily kill a half-step god of creation with his cultivation base at the peak of Lord Chaos? He's merely Master Chaotic Origin, yet he's able to slay a half-step god of creation. In the entire host region, it seems like only a few exceptional prodigies are capable of such a feat. The Grand Elder murmured to himself with a complicated expression. No, even those monstrous prodigies can't do it. Even the publicly acknowledged 5 monstrous prodigies of the 5 Tao palaces can't kill a half-step Genesis Lord while he's still at the primordial chaos origin realm. Xia Yizhu shook his head, and his eyes shone with a strange light as he continued. Yi Qidong, the publicly acknowledged strongest of the 5 monstrous prodigies, has also battled half-step creators after he became a heavenly fate lord. However, he was only able to fight half-step creators to a standstill and was unable to kill them. But Celestial Master Zhuo directly killed 3 half-step gods of creation. That's simply astonishing. Xia Qinfan and the Grand Elder both fell silent. Xia Yizhu was right. Zhuowen's strength was clear for all to see. Even Yi Qidong's talent was probably slightly inferior to his. The Pill Array Immortal Alliance is really lucky to have a genius like Immortal Master Zhuo. If our Tai Sui sword faction can have such a genius, we will definitely be like the sun in the sky. It won't be difficult for us to become the leader of all the Tao palaces. Xia Yizhu let out a long sigh, and his gaze involuntarily landed on Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan blushed slightly when she saw Xia Yizhu's gaze. Her beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen's pavilion, but they dimmed slightly. How could she not understand Xia Yizhu's intentions? However, she was very clear that Zhuowen had helped her not because of love, but because he wanted to return a favor. She could see that Zhuowen didn't have that kind of feelings for her. The phenomenon lasted for a long time, before gradually dissipating. The door of the pavilion opened, and a white-robed youth with an otherworldly aura walked out. Congratulations, Celestial Master Zhua, for officially stepping into the second step of the Tao validation stage and becoming a heavenly fate lord. Xia Yizhu hurriedly went up to him with a warm smile and endless compliments. Sect Master Xia is too polite. I was able to successfully become a heavenly fate lord today, thanks to the heavenly fate pill ingredients you provided. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy for me to break through. Zhuowen returned the greeting with a smile and continued, since I've already broken through, I don't plan on disturbing Sect Master Xia any longer. Xia Yizhu's expression stiffened when he heard this. He hadn't expected Zhuowen to leave the Tai Sui Sword sect so soon. He hurriedly urged him to stay, but unfortunately, Zhuowen had already made up his mind and couldn't be shaken. His immortal masters were going back to the Pillaray Immortal Alliance. Xia Yizhu knew that Zhuowen was determined to leave, so he didn't continue to urge him to stay. Instead, he asked where he was going. I plan on going to the 10 Extremes Corp's sects, Umbra Hell. I plan on searching for something there, Zhuowen said. Xia Yizhu's expression changed slightly, and he blurted out, Immortal Master Zhua, are you going to the Umbra Hell to search for the realm-eluding Nether Flower? You know about the realm-eluding Nether Flower, too? Zhuowen was stunned and looked at Xia Yizhu in surprise. Xia Yizhu was somewhat anxious and advised, Immortal Master Zhua, it's best if you don't go to the Umbra Hell. I can clearly tell you that the Umbra Hell is much more difficult for foreign cultivators than the Umbra Hell. Moreover, even if you can find the realm-eluding Nether Flower in the Umbra Hell, you won't be able to bring it out. You might even lose your life there. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He looked at Xia Yizhu and asked, Sect Master Xia, what do you mean? Immortal Master Zhua, this involves some secrets that can't be divulged to outsiders. It won't do you any good if I tell you. Xia Yizhu hesitated and didn't dare to say anything. Sect Master Xia, tell me, I'll satisfy you whatever you want. Zhuowen stared at Xia Yizhu. He felt that the latter definitely knew some secrets about the Umbra Hell that couldn't be revealed to the public. This secret might have great implications. However, what puzzled Zhuowen was why Ji Wuming hadn't told him about the Umbra Hell's secrets. Or was it that Ji Wuming didn't know the specifics of the Umbra Hell? Xia Yizhu hesitated and seemed to have made up his mind. He solemnly said to Zhuowen, Immortal Master Zhua, I'll tell you this, but you absolutely can't tell anyone else, especially those from the 10 Ultimates Corp's sect. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be killed. Zhuowen naturally gave his guarantee, and Xia Yizhu finally told him everything he knew. Zhuowen's expression didn't look too good after hearing this. It turned out that the Tai Sui Sword sect had sent many cultivators into the Umbra Hell to train at its peak. Although the Umbra Hell was extremely dangerous, it was rich in heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Any cultivator who trained there would make significant breakthroughs in their cultivation after they left. At that time, the Tai Sui Sword sect had sent many cultivators into the Umbra Hell. Although many of them died, those who came out had great gains. At that time, the Tai Sui Sword sect had a genius called Xia Haoren. He was brilliant and was the strongest genius of the Tai Sui Sword sect. Xia Haoren accidentally obtained the elusive underworld soul flower in the Umbra Hell. He was overjoyed and wanted to leave the Umbra Hell immediately. However, Xia Haoren had died. Before Xia Haoren died, he had sent a fragmented message to his clan brother. The realm-eluding underworld soul flower is a trap. Xia Haoren was my ancestor. With his strength back then, he could have easily left the Umbra Hell. However, he died inexplicably there. Moreover, the last message proved that the elusive underworld soul flower can't be touched in the Umbra Hell. Chapter 28:38. Killing Formation Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly. He understood the meaning behind Xia Yizhu's words. The realm-eluding Nethersoul flower was very useful to the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect. Once someone from the outside world found it, the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect would probably take it by force. Of course, this was just Zhuowen's guess, but it made him more vigilant. He couldn't help but recall how Ji Wuming had contacted the sect master of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect and planned to exchange a fortune-grade divine pill for the realm-eluding Nethersoul flower. However, the sect master of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect didn't agree. From this, it could be seen how important the realm-eluding Nethersoul flower was to the sect master of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect. He didn't even care about a fortune-grade divine pill. Zhuowen felt a little strange. The realm-eluding Nethersoul flower was only a fortune-grade divine herb. Its value couldn't compare to a fortune-grade divine pill. However, the sect master of the 10 Extremities In Corpse sect valued it so much. Could it be that the realm-eluding Nethersoul flower had some unknown use? As Zhuowen thought of this, the communication jade talisman at his waist suddenly lit up. Someone had sent him a message. After Zhuowen checked the message, his body trembled, and a wave of killing intent erupted from him. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder, who were standing beside Zhuowen, were the first to bear the brunt of the killing intent. They couldn't help but take a few steps back. Their eyes were filled with shock. "Master Zhuo, what's wrong?" Xia Yizhu asked cautiously. Zhuowen withdrew his killing intent and cupped his fists at Xia Yizhu. "Thank you for telling me the secret of the realm-eluding Nethersoul flower, Sect Master Xia. Take this as my gift to you. I still have important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first." Zhuowen took out a jade bottle and handed it to Xia Yizhu. Then he hurriedly bid farewell and left. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder looked at Zhuowen's back as he hurriedly left. Their eyes were filled with confusion. "It seems Master Zhuo has some urgent matters to attend to," Xia Yizhu muttered regretfully. "Sect Master, I wonder what kind of divine medicine is in the jade bottle that Master Zhuo gave you. You can open it and take a look," the Grand Elder suddenly said. Xia Yizhu nodded and opened the jade bottle. His eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. "It's actually a special grade turtle serpent pill. This is the best healing elixir among the eternal grade elixirs. Thank you, Immortal Master Zhuo." Xia Yizhu couldn't help but sigh. His injuries were very serious, and his cultivation base had dropped significantly. It would take him a lot of time to recover. However, with the unique grade turtle serpent pill that Zhuowen had given him, his recovery speed would definitely be greatly increased, and the recovery time would be shortened. After Zhuowen left the Taisui Sword faction, he immediately summoned the space-time roulette and pushed his speed to the limit. His destination was the Lightning God Garden. It was Fire Plume who had sent him the message. In the message, Fire Plume had informed him that Purple Red Cottage had been destroyed by Lightning God Park. Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei had lost their minds. They had actually left the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and returned to the Lightning God Park's Purple Red Cottage. Zhuowen didn't know how Fire Plume and the others were doing. In the message, Fire Plume had only said that they were going to the Purple Red Cottage. He hadn't said anything about their current situation. Because the Taisui Sword faction had declined too much, most of the sect's teleportation arrays were old and couldn't be used. Zhuowen naturally couldn't rely on the Taisui Sword faction's teleportation arrays to reach the Lightning God Park. Fortunately, the Taisui Sword faction wasn't far from the Lightning God Park. Zhuowen pushed the space-time roulette's speed to the limit, and it only took him 3 days to reach the Lightning God Park. He directly went to the Purple-Red Cottage. When Zhuowen arrived at the Purple-Red Cottage's base, his eyes blazed with fury. At this moment, the Purple-Red Cottage was littered with corpses and blood. Only ruins were left of the Purple-Red Cottage. Zhuowen, you really came. I didn't guess wrongly. You really are a righteous person. The moment you heard that your friends were in trouble, you rushed over immediately. You didn't even consider the consequences. Far away from the ruins, a beautiful figure slowly walked over. She wore a red dress, and her beautiful eyes carried a trace of charm. Zhuowen looked at the red-clothed woman in front of him. Killing intent exploded from his eyes. He stared at the red-clothed woman and said coldly, "Lei Zixuan, wear a fire plume, steel plume, and tong chime." Zhuowen didn't understand. This Lei Zixuan already knew that he was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Why did she still plan to deal with him? Was the Lightning God Park not afraid of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? Lei Zixuan sneered. "Don't worry, the 3 of them aren't dead. However, I want to ask you something. My Lightning God Park's court master chased after you. Where did he go?" Lei Zixuan stared at Zhuowen. She knew that this Zhuowen wasn't simple, but she didn't think that Lei Litian would die. Even though Lei Litian's life imprint had disappeared, she still didn't believe it. He was a mid-stage Genesis overlord, the strongest expert in the Lightning God Park. How could he die just like that? Hence, Lei Zixuan had to find out where Lei Litian had gone. What does Lei Litian's whereabouts have to do with me? I think Miss Lei is looking for the wrong person. Zhuowen calmed down, but the killing intent in his eyes burned even brighter. "It's fine if you don't say anything. Once I capture you, I'll extract your soul and forcefully search your memories. At that time, I'll know where Lei Litian is." Lei Zixuan snapped her fingers as she spoke, and the entire purple-red schoolhouse was enveloped by a terrifying aura. It was as if a primordial beast had been awakened. "Zhuowen, this is a Genesis Overlord killing formation I prepared for you. It cost me quite a bit." Lei Zixuan slowly retreated from the barrier, and her eyes were filled with mockery. Rumble! Endless lightning wreaked havoc and filled the entire barrier. It was as if the might of the heavens had descended upon Zhuowen. These lightning bolts weren't simple. Each one of them was powerful enough to kill an eternal overlord. Even a Genesis overlord wouldn't be able to withstand so much lightning. In Lei Zixuan's eyes, Zhuowen wouldn't be able to withstand such terrifying heavenly lightning. However, she soon discovered that the young man in the lightning barrier was slowly walking over. He was actually able to withstand the terrifying might of the lightning and was glaring at her with murderous intent. Lei Zixuan frowned and snapped her fingers again. More than a dozen figures suddenly emerged from the ground. The dozen or so silhouettes had a tacit understanding. They held blood-red short swords and silently stabbed at Zhuowen's vital points. Blood prison assassins. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He recognized the assassins at a glance. He had been ambushed by the blood prison assassins before, so he was extremely wary of their terrifying concealment techniques. Even now, if it weren't for these assassins, he wouldn't have discovered that they were hiding underground. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The assassins' attacks were approaching, and they unceremoniously greeted Zhuowen. Zhuowen stretched his body. His fists and feet turned into peerless weapons as he used the tyrannical art of Dao slaying to meet the assassins. These assassins were only at the profound theory overlord's level, but their killing techniques were extremely terrifying. Moreover, they worked together well enough to kill an eternal overlord. With Zhuowen's strength, if he used the Panga's sacred body, he could instantly kill these assassins. However, Zhuowen didn't. He felt that Lei Zixuan must have a hidden trump card. If he exposed his trump card too quickly, he was afraid that the enemy hiding in the dark would be afraid and secretly retreat. He was waiting for the person hiding in the dark to make a move. Then he would kill them one by one. Chapter 2839. Blood Lightning. Zhuowen's strength has exceeded my expectations. He actually managed to withstand a Genesis realm killing formation and survive the onslaught of a dozen blood prison assassins. Yin Wuxia frowned in surprise as he watched the scene unfold in the ruins of the purple-red schoolhouse. Elder Yin, you must not underestimate that child. Zhuo Wen's cultivation is not high. However, his physical body is extremely powerful. Back then, I had chased after that child to kill him, yet I was unable to completely eliminate him. Huang Wu stood beside Yin Wuxia, his gaze solemn as he spoke in a low voice. In the past, he had chased after Zhuo, when partly because Zhuowen had killed a few princes of the Huangji clan, but more importantly, it was because Huang Wu coveted the Hou-Yi divine arrow on Zhuowen. Although Huang Wu had never personally witnessed how terrifying Hou-Yi's godly arrow was, he had seen it kill Grandmaster Yuan Hui from the images of the sun-moon demonic mirror. He knew how terrifying it was. Huang Wu had once thought about it. If he had been in Grandmaster Yuan Hui's position, his performance might have been better, but he would definitely have been injured. And this was because Zhuo Wen's cultivation base was very low, and he was unable to unleash the full power of Hou-Yi's divine arrow. If he could get his hands on the arrow, Huang Wu was confident that he would be invincible among his peers. He wouldn't even fear a peak Genesis realm cultivator, and could even kill them. As long as he could get his hands on the arrow, Huang Wu was confident that he could lead the Huangji family to another peak. Even if the Huangji family couldn't become a Dao Palace faction, it would still rank among the top 3 Dao Palaces. Oh, Patriarch Huang Wu, you personally pursued Zhuowen, but you still couldn't kill him? Elder Yin was surprised. She recalled that Zhuowen's cultivation was only Lord Chaos origin when he participated in the Pill Tempering Assembly. Now that he was a Heaven's Mandate Master, he should have ascended after the Pill Tempering Assembly. In other words, when Huang Wu chased after Zhuowen, this Zhuowen was actually just a Chaos origin lord. How did he manage to escape with his life? Yin Wuxia was in disbelief. At the same time, he started to take Zhuowen seriously. Yes, this kid is not simple. Elder Yin, you better not underestimate him. Huang Wu cautioned. He suspected that the disappearance of Lei Litian was definitely related to this Zhuowen, but he did not tell Yin Wuxia about this. Huang Wu didn't even mention anything about Hou-Yi's god arrow. He had his own selfish motives. He knew that the origins of Hou-Yi's divine arrow were extraordinary. If he told this to Yin Wuxia, he was afraid that Yin Wuxia would covet it. Yin Wuxia was an elder of the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect, and he was also a late-stage god of creation. Whether it was status or cultivation, Huang Wu was far above him. If Yin Wuxia wanted to compete with him, Huang Wu knew that he would not stand a chance. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Fierce, bloody light, accompanied by terrifying lightning, constantly flashed in the lightning barrier. Zhuowen was inside the lightning barrier. His eyes were cold, and his figure was like the wind. Bolts of lightning fell on his figure, but they only hit his afterimage. The dozen or so blood prison assassins were expressionless as they stabbed out with their bloody swords. Every move was fatal and merciless. The cultivation of these blood prison assassins was not very strong. They were all at the level of profound secrets lord. However, their cooperation was too good. Their combined strength was terrifying, and they could even kill an ordinary eternal overlord. With Zhuowen's current strength, Even if he did not use the power of the Panga's sacred body, it would not be difficult for him to get rid of these blood prison assassins. However, he was still trapped in the god of creation killing formation. The lightning contained within was extremely terrifying. Zhuowen was dodging rather awkwardly, so he could not divert his attention to get rid of the blood prison assassins who were sneak attacking him in one go. Of course, this was also deliberately done by Zhuowen. If he had displayed the full power of the Panga's sacred body, these assassins would have been a piece of cake for him. He was waiting for the hidden hand that was lurking in the dark. If he guessed correctly, the hidden hand might be Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu. Outside the killing formation, Lei Zishuan put her hands behind her back and frowned slightly. She stared at Zhuowen, who was inside the formation, with surprise in her beautiful eyes. She had used a god of creation stage killing formation. Even Lei Litian, the master of the lightning god garden, would be in an extremely sorry state in the face of this killing formation. Against the combined might of these dozen or so blood prison assassins, there was most likely a possibility that he would be injured. Although Zhuowen was also in an extremely difficult situation, in Lei Zishuan's heart, Zhuowen was just the Lord of Destiny. How could he be compared to Lei Litian? Now, however, Lei Zishuan no longer dared to look down on Zhuowen. Lei Zishuan even had a hunch that Lei Litian's disappearance might have been caused by Zhuowen. Thinking of this possibility, a chill rushed from the soles of her feet to the top of her head. She only felt a chill all over her body. I must kill this kid. Lei Zishuan came back to her senses, and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. She took out a golden talisman, bit the tip of her tongue, and spat out a mouthful of blood on it. After the golden talisman was stained with blood, it was immediately dyed blood red, and it was full of a demonic aura. Lei Zishuan held the blood-red talisman in her jade-like hand and threw it into the killing formation. Suddenly, the blue lightning in the killing formation turned into terrifying blood-red thunderbolts. The killing array's aura skyrocketed, like a ferocious beast that had just awoken, causing people to shudder. Zhuowen's face changed slightly. He didn't expect the thunderbolts of the killing formation to suddenly become so terrifying. He was careless and was struck in the chest by a blood-red thunderbolt. Blood exploded, revealing a deep, bloody hole, and white bones could be vaguely seen. Zhuowen's eyes were solemn. He used his body movement with all his strength to avoid the blood-red thunderbolts. After the thunderbolts in the killing formation turned blood-red, not only did their power become terrifying, but their speed also increased by several times. If it weren't for this, Zhuowen wouldn't have been injured by the blood-red thunderbolts just now. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with anger, but he was very calm. He still dodged in a panic and didn't expose his Pangu's sacred body. Boom, boom, boom. The blood-red thunderbolts spread and scattered into a thunderstorm. More than a dozen blood prison assassins shuttled back and forth in the thunderstorm without being affected at all. This killing formation was controlled by someone, and it only targeted Zhuowen. Zhuowen's injuries were getting more and more serious. He knew that he couldn't delay any longer. He had to deal with the blood prison assassins first. Thinking of this, Zhuowen stomped his right foot, causing the whole earth to tremble a few times. Zhuowen disappeared like an arrow leaving the bow. At this moment, Zhuowen's speed was much faster than before. He instantly swept in front of the nearest blood prison assassin and punched out, causing the space to explode. The blood prison assassin was expressionless, and his eyes were indifferent. The blood-red sword in his right hand was still aimed at Zhuowen's vital point. Zhuowen's left hand snatched the blood-red sword from the assassin's right hand. With a sudden force, the assassin's right hand was directly broken. Chapter 2840. Lei Zishuan's concerns whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The moment Zhuowen killed the blood prison assassin, the rest of the blood prison assassins were expressionless. They took advantage of this opportunity to attack fiercely, wanting to kill Zhuowen with one blow. Zhuowen growled. He felt that these blood prison assassins were like flies. They were very annoying and couldn't be swatted away. Zhuowen blocked some of the attacks and used his agility to dodge at the same time. However, two blood prison assassins still took advantage of the opening and stabbed their blood swords into his body. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. His right palm moved like the wind and instantly fell on the heads of the two blood prison assassins, annihilating their heads and souls. Now, every time Zhuowen killed a blood prison assassin, he would expose a flaw and be attacked by the rest of the blood prison assassins. Although Zhuowen's body had withstood dozens of swords from the blood prison assassins and was bleeding profusely, he was still full of energy and constantly finished off the remaining blood prison assassins. When Zhuowen was about to finish off the last blood prison assassin, the assassin stared at Zhuowen and said coldly, "Zhuowen, you have killed many of our assassins without any scruples. You have been put on the blood prison's kill list. Next, you will face the endless pursuit of our blood prison. If it weren't for your blood prison attacking me again and again, would I have killed your assassins? Since you have come to kill me, then come at me. I will send all of you down to see the king of hell." Zhuowen's eyes were cold. After saying this, he grabbed the blood prison assassin's neck with his right hand and squeezed hard, completely crushing him. The power of the Panga's sacred body was too terrifying. Zhuowen had not fully exerted the power of the Panga's sacred body, but he could still easily crush Lord Xuanji and an ordinary eternal overlord with his bare hands. After killing the last blood prison assassin, another blood lightning bolt suddenly struck down and blasted Zhuowen's back, causing him to fall to the ground. Zhuowen rolled on the ground, dodging the blood lightning that continuously struck him from behind. He then rushed towards Lei Zixuan, who was outside the killing array. At this moment, Lei Zixuan's beautiful face was incomparably pale. Just now, in order to increase the power of the killing formation's lightning, she had paid a great price. Now, she had almost no combat strength left. How is that possible? How could this Zhuowen be so strong? Could it be that Land Master Lei wasn't missing, but really dead? Moreover, he died at the hands of this brat. Lei Zixuan continuously retreated. Her beautiful eyes stared fixedly at the young man who was getting closer and closer to her. Her heart turned cold as she felt an unprecedented fear. "Elder Yin, Patriarch Huang, when are you going to stop watching the show?" Lei Zixuan shrieked. She couldn't endure Zhuowen's gaze that was filled with killing intent and started to call out to Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu, who were hiding in the dark. "This kid is indeed extraordinary. He actually managed to survive the Genesis grade killing formation and even killed a dozen blood prison assassins at the level of the Master of Profundity." In the darkness, Yin Wuxia's gaze was calm as he slowly walked out. Although Zhuowen's performance just now was shocking, it was still within the acceptable range. Yin Wuxia himself was a late-stage Genesis lord. Although the killing formation that Lei Zixuan had brought out was powerful, it could only trap a mid-stage Genesis lord at most. However, if she wanted to trap Yin Wuxia, it would probably be a little difficult. Yin Wuxia saw that Zhuowen couldn't even break through the killing formation, so he naturally didn't put Zhuowen in his eyes too much. He felt that as long as he made a move, this brat would definitely die. Huang Wu followed behind Yin Wuxia. His eyes flickered, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Zhuowen's strength had increased too quickly. Before the Pill Rhythm Grand Assembly, this Zhuowen had to flee pathetically from his hands. He wasn't a match for him at all. But now, In such a terrifying killing formation, he actually managed to survive and even killed a dozen blood prison assassins from the Master of Profundity. One had to know that those who could become blood prison assassins weren't ordinary cultivators. They were basically powerhouses who could assassinate powerhouses of the same level. The hands of those blood prison assassins were stained with the blood of many of the Master of Profundity's experts. They had even joined forces to assassinate eternal overlords. Huang Wu had thought that if he were in such a situation, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. He would be severely injured or even killed. However, Zhuowen had survived. Huang Wu knew that if he attacked alone, it would be impossible for him to take down Zhuowen. He might even be killed instead. "So it's you guys?" Zhuowen came to the edge of the killing formation. While dodging the blood lightning strikes, he coldly looked at Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu, who had walked out from the darkness. Yin Wuxia laughed heartily and cast a sidelong glance at Zhuowen. "Zhuowen, I admit that you are indeed amazing. You're just a heavens-destined master, yet you have such strength. Even the monstrous genius of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, Ghost Plume, is inferior to you. But now, you haven't stepped into the third step of the Tao validation realm. The gap between you and me is as wide as a chasm. If you surrender now and kill yourself in front of me, I can still leave you with an intact corpse." Yin Wuxia was very conceited. He didn't even look Zhuowen in the eye. He definitely had Zhuowen in his grasp. Huang Wu stood behind Yin Wuxia with a mocking expression. "Zhuowen, you're already an arrow at the end of its flight. Your situation is bleak. Don't tell me you still want to stubbornly resist." Zhuowen completely ignored Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu, who were threatening him. Instead, he coldly looked at Lei Zixuan and said, "Where are Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chime?" Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu's appearance had calmed Lei Zixuan's heart, and she felt much more confident. Lei Zixuan's beautiful eyes cast a sidelong glance at Zhuowen. She couldn't hide the mocking expression on her face. "Zhuowen, you're really too gullible. Let me tell you the truth. Fire Plume and the others are still in the Pil Array Immortal Alliance." "Then how did you get Fire Plume's communication jade talisman?" Zhuowen asked gloomily. "Fire Plume is just a heavens-destined master. It's too easy for us to steal her communication jade talisman without anyone knowing." Lei Zixuan took out a jade talisman from her spirit ring and waved it in front of Zhuowen. Her pretty face was full of pride. The moment Zhuowen saw the jade talisman, he didn't become flustered and exasperated like Lei Zixuan had imagined. Instead, he let out an unbridled laugh. "What are you laughing at?" Lei Zixuan's expression was somewhat ugly. Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu also felt that it was strange. They looked at the unbridled Zhuowen as if they were looking at an idiot. "Since Fire Plume and the others are safe, then I don't need to be afraid." Zhuowen sighed in his heart. Previously, he was afraid not only because Huang Wu and Yin Wuxia were hiding in the shadows, but also because the safety of Fire Plume and the others was in Lei Zixuan's hands. Chapter 28:41. Explode. What's the meaning of this? Lei Zixuan furrowed her brows as she sensed that something was amiss. She yelled at Zhuowen. In her opinion, Zhuowen was really too strange. He was clearly only a Heaven's Mandate Master Cultivator, but he had been able to survive the combined attack of a Genesis Realm killing array and a dozen blood prison assassins. He had even managed to kill them. She had already begun to believe that Lei Liqian's disappearance was definitely because of this Zhuowen. Thus, she didn't dare to be careless when facing this Zhuowen. Yin Wuxia sneered. "I think you've lost your mind. You're still laughing so arrogantly even when you're about to die. You must be tired of living." Huang Wu's eyes flashed, and he subconsciously retreated. He knew how terrifying the Ho-E divine arrow that he had obtained from Zhuowen was. If he really activated it, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, he also knew that once Zhuowen activated the Ho-E divine arrow, he would be completely powerless, and there would be many openings. At that time, he would be able to capture this brat easily. Yin Wuxia was very powerful. He was a late-stage god of creation, and he was much more powerful than Huangwu. With Yin Wuxia leading the charge, Huangwu relaxed slightly. However, he didn't dare to relax too much. The one who's tired of living isn't me. It's you. Zhuowen's voice was calm as his body glowed with a translucent light. A powerful aura surged from his body as if he were an awakened mutant beast. Originally, his body was in tatters and covered in blood, and he looked like a warrior who was about to die on the battlefield. However, at this moment, these terrifying injuries were actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye under the translucent light radiating from his body. Bang! 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 Zhuowen took a step forward and bombarded the edge of the killing formation with a series of punches. One after another, fist seals appeared on the edge of the killing formation as if they were branded on it. Then, the massive killing formation trembled violently. The blood lightning within the formation became even denser and more terrifying, and it landed on Zhuowen's body like a vortex. The blood-red lightning was extremely terrifying and could tear apart any material. However, Zhuowen's physical body resisted it. When the blood lightning struck, it only left faint charred marks on Zhuowen's body. How is that possible? Is this guy's body really that terrifying? Lei Zixuan's beautiful eyes narrowed into needles. She found this unbelievable. Yin Wuxia and Huangwu's faces darkened. They were shocked that Zhuowen had been hiding his strength. Bang, bang, bang. The blood lightning array trembled more and more violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. Given Zhuowen's strength, it would be difficult for him to use brute force to break the blood lightning array. However, he was still an eternal level array godmaster. He was not far from the Genesis level, so he could figure out the specific trajectory of the blood thunder array. During the process of being bombarded, he had found many flaws and weaknesses in the blood lightning array. Now that he had displayed the full power of the 5-star Pangu sacred body and focused on the weaknesses of the blood lightning array, Zhuowen believed that he would be able to completely break the blood lightning array in no time. Oh no, the array can't hold on any longer. Zhuowen also knows array Dao. Lei Zixuan's beautiful face changed drastically, and she exclaimed, "Humph, you have some skills. However, I will definitely make you suffer at my hands today." Yin Wuxia snorted coldly. Like a gust of wind, she charged towards Zhuowen. Yin Wuxia knew that he had completely offended Zhuowen. If he let Zhuowen go now, he would definitely complain to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Perhaps the Pill Array Immortal Alliance would not dare to do anything to the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect. However, the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect would definitely hand over Yin Wuxia to appease the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. When Yin Wuxia found out, he would definitely be in a miserable situation and would not be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, he had to kill this person now. He could not let the tiger return to the mountain. Zhuowen also threw out a punch. When the fist and palm collided, the ripples that spread out caused the entire ground to explode. It was as if an unprecedented earthquake had occurred. Zhuowen groaned. His right fist was directly fractured, and he kept retreating. On the other hand, Yin Wuxia's body only swayed a little before he stabilized himself. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he continued to rush toward Zhuowen. He wanted to completely kill Zhuowen here and now. Zhuowen's face darkened. He had underestimated Yin Wuxia's strength. Yin Wuxia's cultivation was only one level higher than Lei Liqian's, but their strength was worlds apart. He was much stronger than Lei Liqian. Zhuowen's 5-star Pangu's sacred body was currently facing Yin Wuxia head-on. He was just looking for a beating. Bang! 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 Yin Wuxia's following attacks became fiercer and more terrifying. Every move was fatal, destroying the laws and collapsing the space. Zhuowen was almost beaten back. He was completely at a disadvantage, and the injuries on his body were getting more and more serious. Fortunately, Zhuowen's self-healing ability was too abnormal. Although his injuries were serious, he was slowly recovering. He was barely able to fight Yin Wuxia. Yin Wuxia became more and more surprised as the fight went on. With his strength, it was easy for him to kill thousands of Destiny Masters with one move. However, Zhuowen was only a Destiny Master. He had fought hundreds of rounds with him, but he only had the upper hand. He was unable to kill this person. Huang Wu, who was not far away, did not step forward to participate in the fight. Instead, he stood in the distance and silently observed the battle. He was very afraid of Zhuowen's Hou Yi's godly arrow. He wanted to wait until Zhuowen used the Hou Yi's godly arrow before he attacked Zhuowen. Otherwise, if he attacked now, he would be severely injured by Zhuowen in just a few moves. After all, the strength displayed by this person was too terrifying. He was actually able to fight Yin Wuxia, a late-stage creator, without being defeated. He was far from being able to compete with him. Bang! Invisible ripples surged out like a vortex. Then, Zhuowen let out a muffled groan as Yin Wuxia's fist smashed into his chest. His entire body fell to the ground, sinking into the depths of the ground so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. Yin Wuxia was high above. Victory was in his hands. You're very strong. Although you're only a Destiny Master, it's not easy for you to fight with me to this extent. It's time for me to finish you off. As for the Pill Array, Immortal Alliance, I'll make up a suitable reason for your death. You can go in peace. Yin Wuxia said calmly. He faced his right palm up and gently squeezed. Instantly, a terrifying pitch-black energy gathered and rotated in his palm. Bang! Yin Wuxia's right palm suddenly covered the bottom of the pit. Instantly, the pitch-black energy in his palm transformed into an incomparably huge black skull. The black skull opened its ghastly mouth and abruptly descended, swallowing the entire crater. Rumble! However, at this moment, a vast killing intent as vast as the universe suddenly exploded, causing the surrounding atmosphere to become stifling. The black skull directly collapsed into a black fog. A ray of blood-red light shot out from the black fog, streaking across the sky and shooting towards Yin Wuxia. The corners of Yin Wuxia's eyes twitched as he felt an extremely terrifying threat. He roared loudly and exploded with the most powerful energy in his body. He fiercely slammed his palm against the blood-red light. Puchi! The blood-red light was very straightforward. It pierced through Yin Wuxia's attack and through his palm. It swept out from his shoulder, bringing with it a bloody mist. Yin Wuxia spat out a mouthful of blood. His right hand was directly crippled and fell to the ground in a miserable state. Now's the time. Chapter 2842. Hunting down Yin Wuxia the Black mist completely dissipated, and Huang Wu arrived in front of the figure in the depths of the black mist. The ecstasy in Huang Wu's eyes became even more pronounced. He knew that he was about to kill his greatest enemy, and the secrets on this brat's body would belong to him. But very quickly, he felt that something was off. He was indeed close to Zhuowen, but at the same time, he acutely felt that an extremely terrifying killing intent had instantly locked onto him, causing all the hairs on his body to stand on end as he felt the threat of death. Huangwu was no stranger to this killing intent. Wasn't this the same killing intent that had been released by Hou Yi's divine arrow? However, Huangwu had seen with his own eyes that Zhuowen had already unleashed that Hou Yi's divine arrow and severely wounded a late-stage god of creation like Yin Wuxia. Logically speaking, Zhuowen should be completely exhausted, and there was no way he could unleash a second Hou Yi's divine arrow. However, at that moment, Huangwu could see Zhuowen standing proudly in the depths of the black fog. He held an ordinary-looking wooden bow in his right hand. A divine arrow was nocked on the bowstring of the wooden bow. Huangwu could tell that the divine arrow on the wooden bow wasn't the blood-stained Hou Yi's divine arrow. Instead, it was a very ordinary divine arrow. Furthermore, he discovered that the terrifying killing intent wasn't emanating from the ordinary divine arrow. Instead, it was erupting from the wooden bow, and it was extremely sharp and frightening. This guy still has a trump card up his sleeve. Huangwu had a bad feeling, and his scalp went numb. He wanted to retreat, but he was simply too close to Zhuowen. It was impossible for him to stop and turn around, so he could only grit his teeth and charge forward. Zhuowen died. Although Huangwu felt that something was wrong, the arrow was already knocked on the bowstring, and he had no choice but to unleash it. His only choice was to kill Zhuowen. After all, the two of them were already in a state of life and death. Zhuowen was very calm, and a mocking smile appeared on his face as he looked at Huangwu, who was getting closer and closer to him. He pulled the bowstring to 1/3 of the arc, pinched the feather at the end of the arrow, and gently loosened it. There was a loud explosion that sounded like countless thunderbolts exploding in the sky. Then the divine arrow turned into a ray of blood light and flew toward Huangwu at an extremely fast speed. The divine arrow and Huangwu's attack fiercely collided, creating extremely terrifying ripples. Huangwu screamed miserably. His attacks were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow from the divine arrow. The divine arrow pierced through Huangwu's arms like a hot knife through butter and into my chest. Blood mist burst out from Huangwu's body, and it was glistening with blood. Huangwu kept pushing the power in his body, trying to stop the arrow from piercing through his body. However, all of this was useless. All of his efforts were in vain. He could only watch as the divine arrow pierced through his entire body. His body was also torn to pieces by the powerful force of the divine arrow. Zhuowen took a step forward, formed a sword with his right hand, and pointed it at Huangwu's forehead. The power of the 5 stars Pangu's sacred body erupted without any reservation, completely annihilating Huangwu's remaining divine soul. Huangwu stared at Zhuowen, and his breath was cut off. He died with his eyes wide open. Zhuowen quickly put away Huangwu's spiritual ring, and his gaze fell on Yin Wuxia, whose right arm was pierced by the divine arrow. At this moment, Yin Wuxia was in an extremely sorry state. His right arm was completely broken, and there was a bloody hole in his chest. Because he was severely injured by the divine arrow, Yin Wuxia's divine soul was also damaged, and his consciousness was a little blurry. However, Yin Wuxia knew that he had to escape. If he didn't escape, he would die. Therefore, after he came back to his senses, he didn't hesitate to run away. Zhuowen silently looked at Yin Wuxia, who was running away in a panic, and frowned. Both of the divine arrows he shot were ordinary divine arrows. Relying on the powerful killing intent of the Hou Yi godly bow, the ordinary divine arrows became extraordinarily powerful. However, they were only able to seriously injure Yin Wuxia, and he even had the strength to run away. Even Huangwu couldn't completely kill him. In the end, Zhuowen had to add another strike to kill Huangwu. Zhuowen knew that this was most likely due to the fact that the divine arrow he had hired was only at the God of Creation stage. If the Ho-E Godly Bow was used with the Ho-E Godly Bow, Huang Wu and Yin Wuxia wouldn't even have the time to resist before they were blasted into pieces. Not far away, Lei Zixuan was indescribably shocked. She saw with her own eyes that Huang Wu was easily killed, and Yin Wuxia fled in panic. She felt a trace of regret in her heart, and she immediately ran away without hesitation. If she didn't run away now, she would probably follow in Huang Wu's footsteps. Unfortunately, just as Lei Zixuan was about to run away, she was targeted by Zhuowen. In just a short while, Zhuowen caught up to her. Zhuowen grabbed Lei Zixuan and used a powerful force to restrict her movements. He casually threw her to a corner of the space-time roulette, while Zhuowen controlled the space-time roulette to chase after the fleeing Yin Wuxia. Because Yin Wuxia was seriously injured, his speed wasn't fast. However, the intense feeling of fear caused Yin Wuxia to burn her blood essence to escape with all her might. He was extremely regretful. He never thought that Zhuowen, who he looked down on, would be so powerful that he almost killed him. If he didn't have some trump cards, he would have died under that arrow. How could this kid have such a terrifying divine artifact? What kind of divine artifact is it? Yin Wuxia roared in his heart, and his emotions were filled with despair. He knew that even if he escaped this time, his following days wouldn't be easy. He had completely offended Zhuowen, who was an immortal master of the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance. Attempting to assassinate an immortal master of the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance would definitely be despised by the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance. If the matter of him trying to assassinate Zhuowen was exposed, even the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect wouldn't be able to protect him. Moreover, he knew that the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect would definitely hand him over to appease the anger of the Pill-Array Immortal Alliance. I can't return to the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect. This time, when I go back, I must conceal my identity. Yin Wuxia's gaze was gloomy as he muttered to himself. Old dog Yin, are you regretting now? When you planned to assassinate me, why didn't you think of this outcome? An unhurried voice slowly sounded, and Yin Wuxia's hair stood on end. He was too familiar with this voice. Wasn't this the main culprit who had caused him to be in such a sorry state? Yin Wuxia didn't turn around to look. He could feel that Zhuowen's oppressive aura was getting closer and closer to him. Yin Wuxia was shocked. He had already burned his essence blood to increase his speed, but Zhuowen was still able to catch up to him. This was unbelievable.